Good evening. This is opening of the Board of Education Special Board Meeting, January 16th, 2024. It'll be for closed session only. Mr. Hill, are there any requests to speak on these items? Okay, thank you. We will now adjourn to closed session. Thank you. This for the special board meeting. Okay, now we are reconvening from our special closed session. There are no items to report, so I will close that out, and now I will open up the regular session of the Santa Barbara Unified School District Board of January 16th. Are there any requests to speak on closed item? No requests to speak. We will now adjourn to closed session in the regular session. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to reconvene us for our first regular meeting of 2024. Thank you for being patient and being with us as we start a little bit after our regular 6 o'clock. But did we want to start before that? So hopefully everybody's had a time to come. So we'll look at language access.
Thank you. We have language access. We have Spanish interpretation available through Zoom and here in person. And we also have ASL interpretation available through Zoom. Muy buenas tardes. Tenemos interpretación al español disponible por si alguien gusta escuchar la reunión en español. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Maldonado, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise and face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I'd just like to welcome us again to our first meeting of 2024, those who are in the boardroom tonight and those who are looking at us or viewing us virtually. There are no announcements from closed session. No action was taken. We now will move to our student board member report.
Good evening, everyone. Last week, all students just got back off winter break, and this was our first time having a 3-week winter break, and most students enjoyed the length, but also took a bit of adjusting getting back to school. And next week is last week of the semester, so students are preparing for finals and getting grades in. Last week, I was also able to attend most of the interviews for the new board member, and I just want to say congratulations to Miss Beal. And she definitely stood out to me as being extremely understanding and open-minded, so I'm excited to see what insights she will bring to the board. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I just we want to welcome you. And we were there when it happened, right? At the moment it happened. So also I wanted to know, as we take votes this afternoon or this evening, actually will be 4-0 until Mr. Banning joins us later on in the evening. So any all in favor votes will be 4-0. Okay, next we want to move to the superintendent's report.
Happy New Year and welcome everyone. I also want to join in with Anastasia's voice and welcome Dr. Sunita Beal to the board. As we said, she was appointed last week to be part of our board of trustees. She does bring a wealth of experience to the board. As many of you may know, she is a doctor at UCSB and has served on the board for SP Middle School and has been part of the LCAP advisory committee as well. So she definitely has some understanding, or a lot of understanding, of our school district, and is a parent, a former parent of a Dos Pueblos high school student and Santa Barbara high school student. So congratulations once again. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Beal. Also, January is Board Member Appreciation Month. As we embark, yes, it is. And we appreciate our board members because we know that they are elected officials and or appointed officials who give up their time and expertise to help us govern our district. And I want to call out that as we embark on this year, Santa Barbara Unified is proud to commemorate School Board Appreciation Month. This annual observance is dedicated to acknowledging the unwavering commitment and invaluable contributions of our school board members. Our school board members play a pivotal role in shaping the trajectory of education within our district. They volunteer their time, expertise, and passion, and they collectively serve as a vital link between the school district and the community. We express deep gratitude for their tireless commitment to shaping the future of our district. Please join me in congratulating our board as well. Thank you, board members. Last week, the governor released his budget, or unveiled the budget, mostly maintaining funding levels in education despite the $38 billion shortfall. Some of these reserves are going to be covered by Prop 98 partially. He has predicted a cost of living adjustment of 0.76% for LCFF districts this year. Some deferrals projected in funding right now included facilities, grants, and it's also important to note our full funding source, because we are community funded. We receive our funding mostly from community property taxes, but state funding impacts grants we use and is a major piece of the pie for our budget. We will continue to monitor the governor's budget proposal as he works with the Legislative Analyst's Office leading up to the May revise, and we'll be keeping the board and the community informed about this as it continues. And again, this is just the governor's proposal, and it will continue to be negotiated. As Anastasia said, we did have a winter break, and for the first time, we actually had a three-week winter break instead of the usual 2 weeks we get. The calendar for next school year had to be approved in the fall as part of our agreement with our teachers and our other bargaining unit, just the teachers unit. But we do want to find out what people thought about the 3 weeks. So we will be surveying everybody on what that was like. And I'm also looking at the attendance for students. We actually had better attendance coming back this week than we had the last week of school. So we think that, possibly this could be something we want to keep or not, but we will be asking people for their opinions in the coming days and weeks. So look out for that survey and let us know how that 3-week vacation worked. I will now end with our usual every child, every chance, every day recognition. And the first person we want to recognize from Goleta Valley Junior High School is Ricardo Mata Vasquez. Ricardo finds many different opportunities. Ricardo finds many different opportunities to recognize student needs, makes the extra effort to connect with them. Often students come into the front office and share a challenge or a need, and he's always quick to respond and support. So thank you for that, Ricardo. Next, from La Cumbre Junior High School. Patty Flores. Patty is a track and field and basketball coach and builds a sense of shared community through teamwork. During supervision, Patty is always making connections and setting a high ethical standard for students. She is a role model for all. Thank you, Patty. From Franklin Elementary, we have Claudia Vega. Mrs. Vega is an incredible, thoughtful, innovative, and highly collaborative teacher. She's always thinking of new ideas to encourage reading. Mrs. Vega is also making learning fun and highly engaging while always sharing her practices with fellow teachers. Thank you, Ms. Vega. We know reading is the most important skill we can give our children, especially in elementary school. From Adams Elementary, we have Patty Mahota. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Patty greets all students by name, treats them with respect, dignity, and kindness, assessing their situation and determining if they really need medical attention or simply a listening ear and or a mother figure. She follows up with parents and provides descriptive information to put them at ease, including them as partners in caring for their child. That's wonderful. Thank you, Patty. From San Marcos High School, we have Mr. Eduardo Lara. And I also have observed firsthand myself how Mr. Lara interacts with our families. He's a family engagement liaison. He works with families every day, particularly those that are new to this country, to connect them to the school and community resources. He organizes and attends every Emergent Multilingual Advisory Committee meeting, helps coordinate the highly successful parent education and engagement program, Un Día a la Vez, and works hard every day to educate and motivate students. Thank you, Mr. Lara. And this one is the team award to the La Colina Junior High School school counselors. And it's for Athena Sims, Melissa Sheldon, and Austin Romo. Our school's counselors provide personalized and exceptional support in helping La Colina's students develop the skills they need, both academically and socially, to be successful in high school, college, and career. They do this through classroom presentations on academics and social emotional learning, daily check-ins, parent meetings, and more. And we know they're a huge connection to our students, so thank you to the La Colina school counselors. And we're going to end with Harding University Partnership School for Drew Frick. Drew spends quality time in small group instruction that is targeted to fill gaps, build confidence, and ultimately achievement. Her room is a preferred place where students feel special and welcome. And I just want to say to our new board member, Ms. Beal, that one of the things that we're working on as a school district this year is making sure that the motto we have on the school doors, on our letterhead of every child, every chance, every day. We worked with a group of leaders this summer to look at ways that we can actually make this come alive. Like, what does it really mean to be there for every child, every chance, every day? Leaders at school sites and the district office are asked to nominate the folks that I'm recognizing here tonight as a way for us to really bring examples of what does that look like out in the field. I'll share with you later a little bit more. So as we bring you along, this is how this came to be, and this is what this award was about. So with that, board members, that concludes my superintendent report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maldonado, for that report. Typically, this time we would be moving to D8, which is where the board makes comments and correspondence, but we're going to move that to later in the meeting so that Mr. Bannon can have a time to join us. So we will now move to D9 for public comments.
Thank you, and Happy New Year, everyone. It's good to see you all. So we have about 32 public commenters so far. As a reminder, it's 1:30 for public comment. You can't share time. I'm going to name a few people. So if you're next, just queue up, and then I'll just continue doing that. If you're in the back of the room, we'll be patient. So you don't have to run up. Our first public speaker is a virtual public speaker. It is Naomi Joseph, followed by our first in-person speaker, Maggie Light. And our third speaker will be York Shingle.
Hello, my name is Naomi Joseph. I am a supporter of the Santa Barbara Unified School District, especially of their teachers. I also was a skills educator with Santa Barbara High School back in 2020, and got to see firsthand the teachers' resilience and flexibility and care for their students during the beginning of the COVID lockdowns and pandemic. And I just want to say that I want to put in my support for the Santa Barbara Teachers Association and believe that they should get at minimum, the 15% pay raise for the 2024-25 school year and 8% pay raise for the 2025-26 school year that they're asking for. The teachers are not able to afford to live in the districts that they teach in, and that's unacceptable. So I urge the board to support the teachers, pay them what they deserve, pay them what they need to be able to stay in the county and serve our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Maggie Light. Good evening.
The board has written, we see you, we hear you, and we will do our best.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you turn on the mic and we'll restart your time.
Thank you so much. Good. I get
Yeah.
a second chance. All right. Here we go. The board has written, we see you, we hear you, and we will do our best to reach a mutual agreement on compensation while maintaining the fiscal health of the district. Well, do you hear us and see us? The answer is no. The fact that we are making demands instead of accepting an offer reflects this. Our demands are not unreasonable. Budgets are value statements. Why aren't we a priority? Retention and competitive salaries are essential. The disconnect starts with the low offer the district began with in negotiations. Your duties come with the same amount of homework hours do, and I do appreciate that. But what we hear and see is meme leadership. We don't see leadership based on substance and accountability, but one based on virtue via public relations. We are carrying the weight of a learning crisis. Our loud voices are a response to leadership buoyed too long on fragile platitudes rather than on respect and support, resulting in fair and adequate compensation without a fight. Show respect to us and to the work we all do.
Thank you. Next, we have York Shingle, followed by Ryan Cybulski, followed by Rogue Lindsay. Welcome.
Good evening. I really thought we'd be here under different circumstances. Really, I did. Because you said we have a vested interest in completing negotiations in a timely manner to better position SB Unified in this regard. Talking about teacher retention and competitive salaries. Also, your negotiation team didn't want to bargain incrementally. So we didn't. We spent hours, and some folks spent days, analyzing your budget and finding the money. But that made them storm out of the room, even though one of their core values is be passionate about the issues through respectful dialogue. Instead, they're trying to drag out the process so teachers lose steam. Based on your language, I thought we'd reach an agreement early, but I guess that was foolish of me. Board, we need your help with the budget. I got accepted to speak at a bilingual conference called CABE in Southern California, kind of a big deal, and I was told there's no money for travel, so I can't go. We're really that strapped for cash? I don't buy that. I think our money needs to be managed better.
20 seconds.
When we sit at the bargaining table and your team says there isn't enough money for our raises, I don't think they actually know. That statement is brought to you by the same people who didn't realize the difference between 6.7 million and 3.2 million. It is a poor craftsman who blames their tools. I didn't let my math students blame their calculator, and we cannot let our district staff do the same.
Thank you. Next up, Ryan Cybulski, followed by Rogue Lindsay. Do we have Ryan Cybulski? Okay. Welcome.
Hi. So as teachers, we are taught to plan backwards. You know what that means? That we plan so that we know what our students want to learn. So why as a district are you guys not planning backwards with us as a priority? Why are we still in the same narrative that teachers are not paid well? We go above and beyond for our students, and what have you done for us? We make sure that we put our students first, and we are the ones making the difference in the classroom, and you should be putting us first when making the budget. After making sure you pay us, then figure out how much left you have for travel budgets and this and that, when you have made sure that the teachers are paid what they should be paid. Coming in at the average is not something to be proud of. That's not something we made the average. We don't, as teachers, we don't expect average from our students, do we? We expect them to go above and beyond. So you as a board should go above and beyond for the teachers that do it every single day, every student, every chance, every whatever. What does that mean? Show us that it means something to you that we show up every day.
20 seconds.
Okay, I'll leave my 20 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Rogue Lindsay, followed by Finnegan Wright, followed by Rich Lashwa. Welcome.
Hi again. So last time I came pretty underprepared because I just didn't know what the general vibe was because I've never been to a board meeting, right? This time I did. I did math, actually,
I couldn't have done it without my teachers. You know. And I noticed that the inflow of SB Unified's budget, only 36% of it goes to teachers, and SB Unified's budget is 172 million-ish, you know, like around then. And I couldn't find the price, like the average that new teachers and tenured teachers make. I could last time, but I couldn't find it on your website for some reason. And I mean, we've been over this already, you know, SB Santa Barbara is like has one of the highest costs of living. I think in the country, it's like, I don't know, number 5, number 9, one of those. And I just think it's like, it's sad mostly that like all of the money and all of the resources, because this is a very nice school, the school that I go to. It's really nice, you know? And my teachers just like, you know, can't afford to live in the area. They can't, they can't.
You wrap up your thought.
Yeah, I just think it's crazy that they can't live here. That's such a weird concept to me.
Thank you. Next, we have Finnegan Wright, followed by Rich Lashua.
Right.
Welcome.
Is it on? All right,
Yes.
cool. Hi, my name is Finnegan Wright. I just want to start by saying, Dr. Beal, I think I went to elementary school with your daughter. So it's nice to see another Peabody parent in the community helping out. I'm sorry that you've sort of been thrust into this conflict, I guess. I wish that the other board members wouldn't have made this an issue that you have to deal with, but I guess that did happen. But I give gratitude to you. Thinking about gratitude in general, taking a step back, when I see someone from my elementary school community, I think about family. I think about how like at Peabody, I felt like there was a family, and at all my schools, I feel like we build these families. And really, SB Unified should be this family. But when our board members don't pay our teachers what they deserve, when our board members don't allow our teachers to live in this district, that's not how you treat family members. That's not how you provide for the people that you care about. And so I know that because of that, my teachers really don't have any appreciation towards the board right now. I wish that we were in a situation where they could, but acknowledging that, I would like to instead express some appreciation to my teachers. So I'd like to appreciate all my elementary schools and my elementary school teachers, my middle school teachers, and then specifically from Dos Pueblos, I just like to list out Mr. Adam Shive, Ms. Kelly Savio, Mr. Matt Moran, Lisa Coppenjan, Mercy Rudolph, Katie Mendenhall, Ms. Guerrero, Ms. O'Carroll, and Coach David Jackson as fantastic educators who have made my life better.
Thank you. Next, we have Rich Lashua, followed by Melanie Snyder, followed by Becca Rich. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for your patient listening ears. I love this creed of we prepare students for a world that is yet to be created. Secondary teachers report that it's difficult to stay ahead of their students in the use of technology to write their essays for them, cheat on tests, and so on. As it turns out, the performing arts are impervious to this technology because music students can't count on AI to play that saxophone for them. They have to take the time, the discipline, and the effort to learn the instrument and play it on their own. The literal and ultimate performance assessment, if you will. And if that's for a solo and jazz band, they have to get creative while they're at it. ChatGPT is utterly incapable of informing how a theater student interprets the words of Shakespeare and then brings them to life through their voice and movement on stage, to say nothing of singing and dancing in a musical. Teachers are not here to raise test scores. We're here to help raise a generation of kids who are smarter than their phones. And we know that if we do that, the test scores will follow. Last year at Santa Barbara Junior High, we pulled English support students from class every other week and into art and theater classes. By this fall, over 82% of those students had reclassified in English. Despite being pulled from the support classes they need electives even more. Restoring, encouraging, and funding the arts rather than passively allowing them to exist will revolutionize our community. Per Ed Code, VAPA classes need to be offered to all
Thank you.
students. We're out of compliance with the law, and it's time for systemic change to restore equity for our students. Every child, every chance, every day.
Thank
Please
you.
reinstate the 7-period day at the junior high level. It's an inherited problem, but we have the power and opportunity to fix it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Melanie Snyder, followed by Becca Wrench. I hope I got that right. Followed by Aaron Cavazos. Welcome.
It's ridiculous a 14-year-old like myself has been inclined to stand here before a board of adults like yourselves on a Tuesday evening, but your blatant ignorance and disregard for the staff and students of your district is so alarming that I felt I had to. While I know the 90-second clock to silence me is the most interesting thing in the room right now, I ask that you at least humor me before calling 20 seconds. SBUSD teachers are being criminally underpaid millions of dollars. Due to this, I've watched many of my teachers become disheartened and less motivated to spend their off-contract time like lunches and breaks, hosting clubs or participating in other student-involved activities. I cannot say I blame them, but the feeling of isolation is inescapable when you're stuck in a building full of people and not one has their door open for you. That's tragic because some of these people are following your lead and closing their doors on us as you all closed yours on them, as you all decided you weren't going to respect and pay them for the service to your district. I know you've seen and heard firsthand me and my fellow district students walk out of schools all over the district. You're wasting our time. We're losing time for our education and you're wasting our teachers' times. Working a job that doesn't nearly pay them enough to afford a roof over their heads, not only for themselves and God forbid their families. This will not end. It's our understanding that the district gets funded by attendance per student per day, ADA. We will do worse than walk out. We will not walk into the building in the first place. You will not profit off of us unless the profit is going where it should, to the teachers who supervise us once we're there. Why you won't is beyond me, but this isn't the solution. But what isn't is the solution, paying your teachers. 55% is the minimum, and the minimum for people who do so much more beyond it shouldn't need to be argued. I'm not sure how many more times you need to hear that or how much simpler you need to have it spelled out, but maybe when you pay one of your elementary teachers, you can ask them.
Thank you.
To save your time and them their headaches, do your job.
Thank you. Welcome, Becca.
I'm a parent of an 8th grader and 10th grader. Every morning after negotiation.
The mic.
Okay, now, can you hear me? How's this? Better?
Better.
Closer? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just get closer.
Closer?
Yeah.
Okay, how's this?
Perfect.
Good? Okay. I'm a parent of an 8th grader and 10th grader. Every morning after negotiations, my kids ask, did the district and union figure it out? So far, each time I've had to say no. And then my kids respond, the district says they want to support students, but they won't support our teachers. When are they going to pay what other districts pay so our teachers won't leave? You all are the elected school board. You need to support our teachers. You live in our areas. We vote for you. Please do your job so that myself, because I work here, am able to report back to my kids that you are doing what you said you would do. Support the students, support the teachers. Thank you. And the school psychologist.
Thank you. Aaron Cavazos, followed by Andrew Southard, followed by Anemone Meta. Welcome.
Hi, thank you very much. Dr. Beal, also I want to welcome you to the district board. And like others have said, sorry, these are the conditions that you're joining us, but we are very thankful that you are here. In my 20 plus years with Santa Barbara Unified as a parent, PTA board member, and also a teacher, I've never seen the morale so low across the board. I mean, these students, like, I don't want to see them talking like this to you or to our cabinet. I mean, it breaks my heart, honestly. And I'm also pleased, Dr. Beal, that you are interested in looking into the finances and really going through it. My master's is nonprofit business. I took MBA classes, and some of this confuses me, and I would be firing some people. It's a little confusing. And I do teach preschool, and I don't fire people right now, but I have in the past. And it to me seems like there's something going on that should be really looked into. All positions created at the district office and in our classrooms must benefit our children, right? Every person in our cabinet, everyone sitting there, everyone in our classroom, my classroom included. Every penny of money spent by the school district needs to be spent on our children. And the best way we can have the best facilities, the best books, the best curriculums, but if you don't have the best teachers in those classrooms, what are you getting? Where is the money going? It needs to go to our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Southard.
So problem solving is tough. Sorry, Happy New Year, by the way. Sincerely, Happy New Year. Problem solving is tough. It's really hard to figure out things with a bunch of math and numbers and things like that. But if you all want a lot of brain power to be fired at the problem until we can figure out a way to make the budget work, I know a lot of people that are really smart at my school that are unhappy that they can't do what they want at lunch because teachers' doors are closed. And I at least would be sincerely willing to work on the problem of how to get teachers the money that they need without breaking the budget or having anything else like that happen. And I could get a lot of other people on my side to work on this problem if you'll like give us whatever information it is we need. So reach out to me. I can give you my phone number after the meeting if you want. I'm sure you can contact me through the school. Like, I'm trying to be completely genuine here. I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to me. I know that I personally don't like coming out here because it's quite far away from my home. And I'm sure you all don't want to have a bunch of people tell you the same thing day after day, every board meeting. So like, why should 30 people come up here and say, please pay the teachers more? Because I think you all have already gotten the message that we really care about this and that it's very important to us. I don't think the problem is that you don't understand, unless you are well and truly not listening, which I don't think is the case. I think you hear us. So if you want us to work on the problem with you, reach out. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Anamoni Mehta, followed by Jack Reedman, followed by Sarah Allers, thank you. Anamoni. Welcome.
I always watch myself. It's funny. We're back here. You blinked first. Okay. We're back here. I have a lot of work to do. Why am I here? I think we've covered those two actually. Welcome. I don't know if you've seen my previous ones of this, but it's always great. Can you guys can you respond? Is that in the rules? Okay. No responses in the rules. Makes sense. They're allowed to. Oh. Really? Are those rules allowed? Like, are they listed somewhere online? Anyone got them? They are. I looked. Couldn't find them. I wonder how much time is left. We'll never know. The silence is deafening. And also the silence is deafening.
Thank you. Jack Reedman. Welcome.
Guys, like, I'm running out of creative ways to say this. You need to pay the teachers more. They deserve it. The students here, we cannot bear to lose more teachers, right? We need to actually get some sort of education. So losing them is not good. So would you all very kindly please pay the teachers? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sarah Allers, followed by Brianna Serrato, followed by Eric Nickerson. Welcome.
Thank you. It's April 11th, 2023. You're in a crowded library, warm with community connection, un pastel to celebrate the graduates of San Marcos's Un Día a la Vez, a parent education program designed for newcomers and their families and guardians. This is the fourth of such workshops, and you watch as proud parents pose with their superintendent along with their certificado de éxito for having completed the series. After that final session, Dr. Maldonado herself wrote me an email saying, "Your passion, knowledge, and support for families, many of which are like mine, is so inspiring and valuable. Please know you are changing lives, and not just one or two, but generations of people who will be better off because of you." Within these students are a vast range of assets yet to be fully leveraged in their classrooms, and it was their teachers who met with me monthly to problem solve that issue. As we co-authored a proposal to that end, every teacher involved said more money was key in making their role more sustainable. A team of roughly 30, at least 5 left for a different job in a different district for better pay, or asked site leadership to change their assignment to a less taxing role. How many more will we put in this position come June? You worry about cutting programs. Programs are the products of passionate, engaged educators who have the knowledge, local experience, and heart to tackle the issues. Of the 6 of us who wrote and ran Un Día a la Vez, 4 left their positions, including myself. For my part, leaving our roles, our students, was heartbreaking and necessary. Educators are your most valuable asset. We deserve to be paid as such. Thank you.
Thank you. Brianna Serrato. Welcome.
Hello, good evening. My name is Brianna Serrato, and I'm a former SBUSD student and current parent of 2 SBUSD elementary students. And congratulations, Dr. Beal. I was the only other person on the LPAC meetings with you last year on Zoom. Let's see. At the beginning of the school year, I was a parent chaperone for our school's 3 fifth grade classes on their trip to CME, Catalina Island Marine Institute. I have never seen a school function or experience that students had so much personal growth, social emotional growth, and bonding with each other previously. It was also an amazing bonding experience for the students whose family member was able to chaperone. As a parent that transferred into the district mid-year of 4th grade, I was so thankful and appreciative that the district was ensuring every child was fully funded without adding additional financial strain on families and stress of fundraising to not pay out of pocket. I recently learned that the district will not be funding the cost of science camp next year. Not only is this extremely disappointing in of itself, it is irresponsible to not inform schools of this intention at the beginning of the year. PTOs and current 4th grade families are being blindsided since fundraising has not been allocated. This is a huge equity issue. Not only will it be inequitable at the school site level as to which students are able to go, it will also be an equity issue for the students that are unable to attend due to financial circumstances. This decision is not providing every child every chance every day. It is widening the gap of inequity. This trip may be the first and only time students will have experience of riding in a cushy bus, going on a boat ride, visiting our Channel Islands, wearing a wetsuit, going snorkeling, etc. This district has covered this expense the last 2 years and in previous years covered the cost of 6th grade camp. While you are reviewing the budget to pay our amazing teachers and classified staff that are so underpaid, please also review where there are inequity. At the 11-14 board meeting, the board approved paying $11,000 for 20 nesting tables for the boardroom and first floor conference room.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Eric Nickerson, followed by Rebecca Booker. Thank you. And Kai Cantu.
Well, thank you. Dr. Bill, welcome. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Eric Nickerson. I've been a special education teacher at Santa Barbara High School for a long time. Full disclosure, my reason for standing up here is not about me and the years I've been in this district. It's to let you know how heartbreaking it is every year to lose quality special education teachers and quality young teachers, because there are other places where they can go where things like, living indoors, eating, and having the lights on are not a real struggle, and you're not living like it's Isla Vista all over again. And on a personal note, and I've said this before this board, my own 24-year-old son who was a highly qualified, highly engaging math teacher, didn't want to stay in Santa Barbara because he gets paid a whole lot more working in San Diego. Plus he doesn't have to live with mom or dad. There's something I'm supposed to read, but I just want you to know that, again, it's about the young ones, the ones who are the innovative, smart ones that we need to think about that money and where it should really go. My time is limited here this way, but also in the classroom. And I want to hand it over to some young folks, especially in my department, who are going to stay there so those kids see that face every year for 4 years, like at my school. Continuity is so important to my students, and they know me, but there's a lot of ghosts. Thank you for your time. Welcome.
Thank you. Rebecca Bucher, followed by Kay Cantu, followed by Joel Block. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome, Dr. Beal. My name is Rebecca Bucher and I'm a school counselor at Dos Pueblos High School. This is my 7th year working in Santa Barbara Unified. Currently, my salary is still lower than when I left my last district 7 years ago. So I'm here to advocate for higher pay, but I'm also here to bring up another issue. In the notes of the December bargaining meeting, it was suggested that in order to meet the salary proposals put forth by the SBTA, that there would be an elimination of all one-time funded positions. Obviously, there will need to be some cuts and reorganization, but I'm here to urge you not to cut any counseling positions. It's come to my attention that many people, both in our district and our community, are not aware that many of the counseling positions in our schools are funded from grants or other one-time funding. This includes counselors at every secondary school, as well as the college and career counselors at all the high schools. With the tragic news of the recent suicides and the overall increase of students' mental health struggles, it would be irresponsible to cut counseling positions. Additionally, Governor Newsom's multi-year roadmap and the California Community College's Vision 2030 outline goals of increasing the number of students taking dual enrollment courses. Our college and career counselors are crucial in helping students register and get credit for their dual enrollment courses. The American School Counseling Association recommends a ratio of 250 students per counselor. Even with the additional counselors at each site, many counselors have caseloads of over 300 students. I'm not here to complain about my job. I love my job and I love my students, but it is so much easier to do our job effectively when our caseloads are manageable and of course with the salary we deserve. I urge you to make all school counseling positions and the college and career counselor positions permanent and not dependent on one-time grants or other funding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Kay Cantu, teacher, 26 years with the Santa Barbara School District. I'm just here as a reminder to all of you of why this 15% is so important. It's so important because Santa Barbara teachers are the lowest paid teachers here in California compared to the cost of living. That worries me more than it does you can imagine. I grew up here and, people like Mr. Couch and all the other great teachers that I had growing up, well, we're not going to be able to afford them. They can't afford to live here. I want to pass on to the next generation the same education that I was given and all these great kids behind me. But honest to goodness, we don't have the finances. You're not supporting us to the point where we will have these good teachers. Let me say this. In the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I'd just like to ask, why does a bargaining committee for the district walk out of a meeting without talking to us? Because they're arrogant, because they feel like, oh, we're coming back with the 15% again? Well, that's only because that's what we need. 15% or more, you're lucky we didn't come with what we wanted to. That's the other part. Please note, we are no longer weak. In fact, we are the strongest we've ever been.
Thank you. Joel Block, followed by Karen Rice, followed by James Claffey. Welcome.
Good evening. To paraphrase a statement by Dr. Sims Moten, the speed of change is dependent on the level of trust that exists. My corollary is the speed of the resolution of a conflict depends on the level of trust. It should be clear to all by this time that the teachers have no trust in the district or school board. The district has constantly stated that we are their partners, but when we asked to reopen salary negotiations last year, when inflation was killing us, the response was, well, we have to honor the process. We're not going to reopen. The district then stated it wanted to work with us, but balked at starting negotiations on salary until this month. We then learned that the district violated Ed Code by underpaying us, and instead of trying to make it right, decided to try and get the requirement waived. This was compounded by the fact that the district was not competent enough to get even those figures right. Then during negotiations, we made a proposal, the district made a counter proposal, we made a counter proposal to that we are sticking with, and the district walked out claiming that we were not bargaining in good faith for not lowering our demands. Of course, the district did not come in with a new response either. Given all the misinformation and disingenuousness published by the district, is there any reason for the teachers to trust the district? Unless something changes quickly, we will be heading to a consequence that nobody wants.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi there. Just trying to keep everybody safe. Hi there. My name is Karen Rice, and as my sign says, I am not a parent of an SB Unified School District student. I'm not a teacher. I didn't grow up going to school here, and yet I can tell that the teachers deserve more money. You would think I don't have a self-interested reason, but any thriving city that consistently disrespects, devalues, and pushes out some of the core public servants, which are our educators, is not a thriving city. It's not a place that I can be proud to be part of and be proud of where my tax money is going. I'm guessing that each one of you has had a moment where you've had a health scare or someone dear to you has, where you felt fear, uncertainty, and there was decision making. I'm going to take 10 seconds of my time to have you call to mind that person or that time when you had a deep health scare. Now add on to that fear that, do I take this person to the hospital or do I lose my house? Do I go behind on my credit card or do I get my family member the care they need? That's the choice you're making educators have to make. Pay them more. It is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. James Claffey, followed by Vicky Haynes, followed by Hannah Stepanek.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Like George Shingle, I cannot believe I'm here. I cannot believe the result of the bargaining meeting, the walking out, the nerve to say, oh, you have your financial people come and we'll have our financial person come and then we'll just, look at everything again. That is absurd. Absurd. What we need with a district that cannot do math. And this is only one incident that was caught. How many mistakes have been missed? How much money has the district bled through incompetence? Through incompetence. Una bola de tontos. Who are the people doing the math at this district? It's shocking. I strongly urge the board, I strongly urge the leadership team and the superintendent to insist upon a real forensic fiscal audit of the school district's books. Absolutely, it should be done independently so that everybody knows what's being spent, when it's being spent, and where it's going. We talk about innovation. We're bleeding our innovative teachers. We're bleeding. And what are you all doing? You're messing around with the first aid kit going, do we have Band-Aids?
Thank you.
The innovative teachers are leaving. The educators that make this community great. And what do we have? A lack of innovation. Just can't even, it beggars belief, the lack of innovation that we have as a group of extremely well-paid individuals. Extremely well-paid. Shame on the district.
Thank you. Vicky Haynes. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. As a 29-year veteran of the Santa Barbara Unified School District, I'm very sad to be here. And the reason why I'm sad to be here is to communicate that as someone who's apologized for the district, who's given a lot of benefit of the doubt over the last 5 years, I'm standing before you with very little left. And here's the reason why. And we have a few speakers after me who will help give a context for that loss of faith. As a longtime district employee, I am very concerned about our current state of negotiations and the future ramifications this might have on the future relationships between district leadership and teachers. As a longtime employee, I'm very concerned about the possibility of this becoming our new normal. The most tension I have seen during negotiations was a student teacher at Santa Barbara High. That was over 30 years ago. Since that time, for the most part, negotiations have been transparent and collegial. That doesn't mean they were without tension, but they were always with the context of mutual respect and trust between the parties. Even when the negotiations resulted in us paying a share of our health benefits, it was not this contentious. For 29 years, SBTA and our district leadership have worked well together to fairly negotiate a contract. Up until now, that has been our normal.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to be continuing reading Vicky's amazing letter. In the past, when the state did not send us the projected budgetary allotment, teachers took furlough days and mitigated the impacts of the budgetary issues. Due to a declared emergency, class sizes increased beyond our contract language. We did not protest, nor did students walk out of school, even though they were sitting on heaters and metal folding chairs. Due to the open conversations between teachers and the district, we knew this was not normal and we did our best to shoulder the weight of the shortfall. Teachers spent 12 to 16 hours a day during the pandemic, primarily uncompensated, moving curriculum and instruction online and adjusting to hybrid instruction. The district asked us to be flexible and pivot in unprecedented times. Teachers did not insist that we abide by our normal contractual language. And we did not tell the district it was not appropriate to ask us to go above and beyond. Instead, teachers engaged in Herculean efforts that went beyond and even contradicted a great deal of negotiated contractual language. We understood this was not normal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Deborah Reed, followed by Sherry Bryan, followed by Miranda. I can't read the last name. Ju. Thank you.
This is a continuation of the message. It is not normal for SBTA to request opening salary negotiations in a year in which we are not scheduled to do so. The current economic hardships are not normal. Therefore, SBTA requested flexibility to adjust to the unprecedented present variables. We understand that this is not normal, but given how many adjustments we have made in light of unique circumstances, it seems that it is entirely appropriate to request a pivot by the district. Unfortunately, what is normal is the district underpaying teachers using the bare minimum percentage of our budget. Other districts prioritizing teacher salaries did not have to apply for a waiver for not spending millions of dollars because of COVID monies. As part of the board presentation, the staff framed this waiver as normal, citing how some other districts had to do the same. But more districts did not have to apply for a waiver than did. It is somewhat disingenuous to frame this as normal.
Thank you.
Continuing with Vicky Haynes' letter. I may not understand the complexity our district leadership faces when making decisions. However, I can't understand the responses to teachers and their requests during this time. I believe that if we watched anyone in a relationship where one partner asks the other to be flexible and pivot, and then watch the other partner refuse to reciprocate, we would call that relationship unhealthy, possibly toxic. We wouldn't normalize that relational behavior. What has been the final straw and the end of my apologetics for the district is the use of the district communication platforms to portray a very one-sided narrative about negotiations. I have never seen a district leadership work so hard to control a narrative in such a disingenuous at best and dishonest at worst way. This hurts trust. It definitely has hurt mine. And for me, that is not normal.
Thank you. Miranda Ju, followed by Rita Newhouse, followed by Hoseby Galindo, and followed by Stephen Hughes. Welcome.
I'll be continuing Vicky Haynes' letter. Leadership's refusal to be flexible and its continuing methods of shifting the burdens of circumstances to its teachers, such as using retirement incentives to save jobs rather than making cuts at the district level, make it difficult to believe in your words that you are supportive of your employees. Constantly shifting the burdens of the district to your teachers without taking on some of that burden at the district level makes it very clear that we are not SB unified, no matter how many times you make us chant it at the beginning of the school year. And just in case it is not clear, the best interests of teachers and the best interests of students are a Venn diagram. It would be a huge mistake to make this lack of support for teachers and thus students our new normal.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'll be reading the last part of the message. This is a major problem in our current negotiations and will continue to be an issue moving forward. Trust between district leadership and teaching staff is necessary for any kind of compromise, and it is particularly important to implement any future agenda successfully. If you can't trust that the policymakers have the best interests of the students and teachers in mind, everything will be scrutinized just because of the source. It slows everything down. We will settle salary negotiations at some point, but the damage done in the wake of how negotiations have been handled and the unfortunate messages the actions of this leadership have sent will reverberate well past any signed contracts. It is time to ask some tough questions to restore the normality of a healthy relationship between district leadership and district faculty and staff. You could begin to build trust by being open to the suggestions of the SBTA negotiating team and ceasing using district and school resources to push a narrative that is unfair to your teachers. As of this moment, this is not healthy, and it is definitely not normal. Also, I got a word that please stop muting the audience on YouTube. It's misleading to the community and when they can't hear us clap. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Hoseby Galindo, followed by Stephen Hughes. And our last speaker is Rebecca Sillers. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, school board, superintendent Maldonado, and cabinet members. My name is Hoseby Galindo. I'm SBTA president. Our teachers union is 730 educators strong. We educators are the frontline workers of the district. We educators foster relationship with our students in ways that help them enrich their personal and academic lives. Students have mobilized in support of their teachers because they see the impact their teachers make in their lives. Students see the sacrifices teachers make for their benefit. Why do you not see or share that vision with our community's children? Please don't try to tell us that you're trying hard to solve our problems attracting and retaining educators, and please don't tell us we don't understand the budget. You failed to spend the minimum % of your budget required by law in the classroom last year. First, it was 6.7 million. Then it was 3.2 million. These miscalculations undermine our trust in your ability to understand your own budget. These miscalculations undermine the trust in the discussions happening at the bargaining table. Please don't tell us we don't understand the budget. We understand that you over budget and underpay our educators. School board members, you can do better. Let's do better for our students. Let's make sure they have teachers in the classroom, counselors, that they have the arts. Let's make sure that our goal is to attract and retain highly qualified teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Hughes? Do we have Stephen Hughes? Okay.
Second job.
Rebecca Sillers?
All right,
Welcome.
thank you. See if I can find my thing here. All right, so mine's a little different because I do want to talk to the school board. Good evening, President Sims Moten, Miss Munoz, Miss Beal, welcome. Mr. Banning's not here, and Miss Lee and Mr. Escobedo. I can't wait for about 5 years when I can run for the school board and be sitting where you are right now. That is my dream when I retire. I have no other aspirations but to be on the school board. And I know you don't get paid. And I know that this is a very thankless job sometimes. And you have to make some very, very hard decisions. I know that a lot of us don't agree with the decisions that you make. And so I have questions as well. It's a big job that you have. And I have the budget, I'm just how you go about approving budget choices that are brought to you by the superintendent and the cabinet. And what kinds of questions do you ask? And so the first one would be $1 million was added to the travel budget last year, but yet York can't go to his really wonderful opportunity. And I don't know any teachers that are going to anything since COVID. Where's that $1 million going to who and to where? I don't know. $5 million is added to consultants and I'm already out of time. Oh, good gosh. Where the questions are, where is this money going? And are you asking those questions?
Thank you. That's our final public comment for general public comment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Escobedo, and thank you for the speakers who are coming forth. So now we will move to item E1, acceptance of donations for January 16th, 2024. May I have a motion to accept?
Move to accept with gratitude.
A second.
Been motion and second. Been motion and second. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Say
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Yes, just as the room is being cleared, board members, feel free to take a 5-minute break to try to do some self-care. Okay, thank you. We will now moving to the consent agenda. Board members or superintendent, are there items you'd like to pull?
Yes, on item number 9, board members, I'd like to call your attention to the contract for McKinley Elementary School. The contract came in as March 2023, and as you know, there's common mistakes when we go into a brand new year. It's 2024. So just please note that, and I'm saying it for the record, that is for the trip to take place March 2024, not 2023. So when you approve that, that is reapproving a trip to March 2024. Thank you.
Okay. Hearing any additional items? With Board Member Bill being new, we're gonna, yes, okay. So what I'm gonna do is, for item C with the correction from Superintendent, items F through 19, we'll go ahead and ask if we want to have approval for those items. May I make?
I'm going to ask that item 20 be excluded and voted on separately, as I was not present during those meetings as a board member.
Correct. So I will ask for a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 19. May I have a motion?
I'll move to approve consent agenda items 1 through 19.
In a second.
I will second that motion to approve those items 1 through 19.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. And again, the all in favor until Mr. Banning joins us is 4-0. Next, I will move for approval for minutes for item F20 for minutes for December 13th, January 9th, January 10th, 2024, December 23, January 9th and 10th, 2024. May I have a motion?
I so move.
And I'll second.
Okay. I'll take a roll call on this, so I'll give you a chance to stay. Okay, Mr. Escobedo?
Yes.
Ms. Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Sims Moton? Yes. Ms. Sabina Bill?
I abstain from that vote as I was not present.
Great. Thank you. Motion passes 3-0 with one exception. Okay, thank you, board members. Next, we will move to our agenda, our RG action agenda, G1, Board Action on Student Discipline Education Code. Mr. Escobedo.
I will motion to approve Student Discipline Education Code 48918, case number 202324-13.
I second.
Okay, been motion is second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
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 Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you. We'll now move to G2, approval of the corrected application for exemption from the CEA. There's Ms. Kim.
Good evening, board members, and welcome, Dr. Beal. We're so happy to have you. So I'm bringing this item back, the CEA waiver, and it's a bummer to have to bring something back because there was a mistake. But this is what we do in a school district when we make a mistake. We're very open about it. We're transparent about it. We figure out how the mistake happened. We make the corrective action. We figure out how to not make the mistake going forward. We learn from it and we move on. So that's what we're doing here tonight. You have already approved the CEA waiver, and we talked about that before. But I actually am really glad that I have this opportunity to talk about a little bit more tonight, because there has been some miscommunication, misunderstanding regarding the CEA waiver and what it is and why it happened. So again, we had an error, a clerical error on the form. I'm going to show it to you so you can see what it was, so that it's real clear how it happened and what happened. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to just talk about what it is, what the CEA is. We have a requirement, a requirement to spend 55% of our expenditures on in-classroom teachers and aides. The elementary schools have a different requirement. It's 60%. And the high schoolers have a different requirement. It is 50. Now, why would they be different? Well, I'll explain. They're different because high schools are more expensive to run than elementary schools. And that's kind of an easy thing to think about when you think of what all is involved in a high school. Athletics is a good example. So because elementary schools don't have big football teams and they don't have all the athletics and all the extra things that go on in a high school, all those things grow the expenditures for a school. The elementary schools don't have that. So their percentage for the teachers is 60% because they don't have the extra things that grew the expenditures. We're right kind of in the middle because we're unified. Ours is 55%. But when you think about it, our school district is 2/3 secondary students. The population that we have, 2/3 of them are in the more expensive schools. So that's just something to keep in mind, just a fact. So what happens in a regular year, a non-global pandemic year, is we are always looking at those 55% because throughout the year, we could receive additional funding and have to spend expenditures on such things as like grants. I'll give you an example. This year, we received money for kitchen infrastructure, $1.4 million. Now, if the state does not take that $1.4 million out of the expenditures, out of the calculation for this CEA, we would then have to come up with 55% of that $1.4 million or $770K to pay teachers. It doesn't make any sense because kitchen infrastructure doesn't affect teachers or the classroom in any way, but they're part of the expenditures that grow the expenditures. It's like athletics do. So I'm using that as an example so you can kind of maybe see what's happening here. That's in just a regular year. We receive grants all the time, and they're for very specific things that are not for in-classroom teacher salaries. Happens all the time. And so what do? Well, we're usually able to pay the difference because every single year we have given salary increases to teachers every year. And also there's step and column increases for teachers every year. So we're usually able to come in with that 55%, even when our expenditures grow for things other than in-classroom teachers. Until we hit this very, very unusual global pandemic, at which time we received a lot of extra funding that grew our expenditures for things, again, that were not for in-classroom teachers. We had to provide PPE. We had to provide classroom cleaning. We had to provide air filters. But most importantly, we needed to provide mental health for our students because a global pandemic is one scary thing. And all of the uncertainty and all the things that happened in our schools was scary and hard for all of us. So mental health, providing extra mental health support for our kids was so necessary and so important and did not go to pay teachers. It went to help provide other things, FSA, all the different things that we provided. It grew our expenditures. And we didn't pay teachers any less. We actually paid teachers more. But that percentage changed because our expenditures grew so much for other things that we needed to do to keep our staff and our kids safe. And that's what we did. We could have said, please no, don't give us the money, but we would still have had expenditures. We would have still have had to provide PPE. We would have still had to do all that. And it was the responsible, smart thing to do because we kept our kids safe. We kept our staff safe. But it put us out of compliance with the 55%. And that's the absolute truth of it. If we had not, if the state had decided to not include all of those one-time expenditures in the calculation, if we could have taken that out, we would have been more than 57%. Because we did pay teachers more. So the actual truth of the matter is there was an error on the form, which we have corrected. I'll show that to you in just a second. But the whole process has to do with the one-time funds. And I showed you how other school districts are having have been having difficulties meeting those waivers, it could be because they are also receiving grants and other things that are growing their expenditures, and maybe they don't have the other funds like property taxes to help pay for it. So they've had to get waivers. The LCFF districts. It could be that. But we have been able to do it all along until now. So there we are. Let me show you what the correction is. This is the corrected form. Up there on the top of the form is all those numbers that come through. They are pulled in from our general ledger. We don't do anything with those. That's just pulled in. It's part of the report that goes to the county, and then actually goes to the county, and then it goes to the state as part of our unaudited actuals. So if you go down a little bit further, please, to the yellow spot, keep going. A little bit more. I think it's line 13. There you go. There's a question here, line 13B, that says less teacher and instructional aides salaries and benefits other than lottery deducted in column 4B. So if we had something that we wanted to deduct, something that should be taken out, we would put that there. And you can see in the corrected form, it's blank. Please go to the next one. Go on down, it's maybe. So this one is the one on September 12th that we submitted. Do you see on column 13B, we put 0. Because the answer to us was, no, we don't have anything to add, it's 0. And mostly, usually, they want you to fill in all the spaces with 0 if you don't have anything to add. So we put a 0 there. In doing that, that 0 overrode the top part that comes out of our general fund, and it changed the calculation. That's what happened. So it was a mistake. I'm owning it. I'm being very clear about it. We've corrected it. We've submitted this to the state. They allowed us to correct it because they said, yes, in fact, that is a clerical error. We've put a process in place so that that won't happen again. We know now that that can happen. I think we didn't really realize before that that could happen, but it can. And going forward, this now goes to our county education office who caught the mistake for us. And they will review it and continue on with the waiver. So what I'm just asking of you tonight is we'll need to sign the front page of our unaudited actuals again. It just says, because it changed a number on there. And then sign off on this, and we're done. And I hope not to have to bring it back again, but if I do, I will.
Thank you. Are there any requests to speak on this item? Board members, any comments or questions? You can just go ahead and speak right now. You just, if you submit the form. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Hernandez. And welcome, Mr. Banning. See you.
Yeah, whenever you get. Welcome, Mr. Galindo.
Thank you. So we just heard a couple of things. One, that the district didn't catch it, the county had to catch it. We also heard, I hope this doesn't happen again, that we don't have to bring it again. This is what we're talking about. There has to be fidelity in this budget. And again, I was not reassured by the words that were just shared right now. If we're going to be able to move forward and do these negotiations, everybody needs to understand how the budget works. Especially the people who are writing it. So I hope that you guys don't just blindly accept what you heard tonight, because I'm not accepting it, and definitely the teachers are not going to accept it either. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, only had this break. So board members, questions, comments? Mr. Escobedo.
Ms. Hernandez, I have a couple of questions for you. So thank you. Let me start there. I think in looking at the form, it is easy to understand why someone would make a mistake. So like you said, we're going to own the mistakes. We're going to correct them. We're going to move forward. Couple questions. So in the past, we've talked about what classifies as an in-classroom expense. And one of the areas that has come up in the past, but I don't know that we actually got an answer. We might not have an answer yet. But when we contract out for paraprofessionals in classroom supports, it's my understanding that sometimes it's calculated as an in-classroom support and other times it's not, or can you give us a little bit of clarity about that?
Yes, I can. Thanks for the question. So it is always our goal and our intent to make sure we provide the support in the classrooms. That is absolutely the 100% that we're going to do. We're going to provide the classroom support. It has been very difficult over the last few years to be able to find paraeducators. So the part that is, sorry, it's making a lot of noise. The part that is in the 55% is only classroom teachers and the aides or the paraeducators. And the way that it is, not to get too deep into the weeds, but the way that it is coded, it has to be our employees. So we have had times where we have gone and found some temporary support for the classroom because that is our intent to make sure that that classroom support is there. But those paraeducators that are temps, they're working for another agency, we cannot count them because they are not our employees. So we are still providing the support and and that actually grows the expenditures, but it doesn't count towards the 55%. We're not able to count it.
I see, because yeah.
I just want to add what Kim is talking about is for over 20 years, or at least I've been in education 34 years. Hard to fill staffing exists in mathematics, special education, and world language. And similarly for special education and in special education paraeducators. When I arrived in Santa Barbara, that problem is a little bit more difficult because of things that we've heard here tonight, but hard to fill staff and the lack of teacher preparation programs for special ed teachers is what has caused us here in this district to go out and get some temp agency support in hiring and finding folks to do that work. And I have gone to the county superintendent. I've advocated with School Services of California and others to ask why, if those people are, and those are expenditures are classroom supports, why can't they count towards CEA? And I've been told that it's just not allowed, but I would like to continue to advocate, and at least from my seat, that is a very important issue that we are not the only district that will be facing as we see less and less people going into education and into the teaching profession. We don't necessarily like having to hire with temp folks, but there are people that go on maternity leave. There's other leaves that people take. There's many reasons in addition to having those are as hard to fill staff.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, highlights the importance of us working with other partners in the community, but also the work that we're doing on housing for retention, recruitment. I think it just highlights how important that is. So another question I have is the calculation, are we only talking about personnel supports? Are we talking about, when you say in classroom supports or expenses, are we only talking about personnel?
Yes, it's only the teachers and the in-classroom aides that are working directly with students in the classroom.
Okay, thank you. And we heard this a couple of times, I think tonight. It's also good to just clarify. The county education office reviews and verifies all budget information, right? So it includes this waiver. It includes when we have our first interims, when we have our end of the year budget, it gets a second look through. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I want to add one more. We also have an internal auditor that works and looks at our budgets, hired by previous FICMAT way before I was superintendent here. And we also hire a company that does an external audit. So there's internal auditor, external auditor, the county office, and then the state.
Thank you.
Any comments, additional comments? Well, thank you for the presentation and for the questions. And I would say, Dr. Superintendent, Dr. Maldonado, uh, you're all those things, but it's Dr. Super, you know what I'm saying? So as you speak about that and just hearing the comments there, that would say, well, all of those things you're able to do, but we still miss that. So that's something to think about. You know, we have all those things in place. And so that begs the question to me, is this because it's like it's the way it is, we can't change it, to your point. So is it at that point where we need to look at advocating for policy with CSBA so that we're not in this, like they're supporting the classroom, these are supporting the classroom, why can't those expenditures be not expenditures, but all that be counted in this percentage?
Yes, definitely. So we have, to Dr. Maldonado's point, we have worked with our auditors, and our audit will be coming to you in the next board meeting, and you'll see that we received an audit finding for this. So our auditors have found it as well. And so it's one of those, their recommendation to me, as similar to what you're saying, is that it is a very old calculation that's been around since before the revenue limits. And it made more sense then than when we went to LCFF funding. It doesn't make as much sense anymore. And so I think that advocating for policy change on this would help everyone.
Well, I'd be happy to work on some language with that and in taking that in our delegate meetings. How do we take that to the floor and then potentially looking at that? So I think that's an important piece. So the other thing, so how, and perhaps you may have said and I missed it, so I apologize if I'm asking you again. So how are we monitoring in this now?
Yes. So this particular form usually comes out in our unaudited actuals, which is at the beginning of at the end of the year. And then it also shows up in our adopted budget, but it's still for the prior year, even before the year has ended. So that one doesn't make as much sense, but we have built our own, because this is part of the SACS calculations that come out. So we've actually built our own so that we can be monitoring it on a more regular basis than that. And then so we can keep track of it.
Okay, and I'll just add one as a suggestion, but as we're, again, communicating out, you know, when you first spoke about transparency, owning it, figuring it out, and, you know, an audit finding, although that's not something we would ever want to do, but the fact that that's where our internal controls are there, we start to look at those things, where we need to make improvements. So that's a critical piece. That's an important piece to, again, to keep our finances in order. There are reasons for that. Because, you know, no finding doesn't necessarily mean there isn't, you know what I'm saying? But it's to acknowledge that and figure out how we can fix it so we're not in that situation where it feels like we're disingenuous when we're presenting different things. So I appreciate this opportunity, you know, to talk about that as well, and the opportunity to look at how we change our processes to do that, at the same time advocate to change something that's 20, 40 years old. And so how do we do that so that we're not put in that position? So I appreciate that. And lastly, I would say, so knowing this, and we're doing our own internal look at, so how do we communicate that out? You know, in this quarter, how do we do that? And when we're getting in extra money, how are we communicating that it's this, or where are we at the percentage? How do we do that at a more regular basis so people are aware of that and we're not at the end,
right?
You know, but we're, again, being proactive about it. Now learning this process and understanding that process, how do we communicate and be proactive about how we're going to address those issues as we come forward? So if there are no additional comments, may I have a motion for approval? I think he's good.
I'll move to approve the corrected application for exemption from the CEA.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
And now that Mr. Banning has joined us, all in favor is a 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Okay. Yeah, just real quick before the discussion. So we'll move to G3, approval to open the 30-day window for public inspection. We are, okay, here we go.
Good evening, Board President Sinsmoten, Dr. Maldonado, Board Trustees, as well as district staff. We're here to provide a brief presentation as part of our request to approve the opening of a 30-day window for public inspection for our Patterns Physics Science curriculum. I'm joined this evening by Mrs. Nellie Hill, our secondary instructional support specialist, who has facilitated this adoption process. I'd like to start by briefly overviewing the physics adoption timeline that we shared with you during the November 4th board meeting. You can see that our original investigation of the curriculum options began in 2018-19 with a pilot that started in the fall of 2019. Then you'll see a gap in the timeline between 2019 and 2023. That's because there were no viable options that were brought forward or wanting to be brought forward for adoption. And then we also experienced the COVID-19 pandemic. The investigation of new materials for adoption began in 2023 in the spring, where there was a review of a potential new option. And then there was a new pilot that started in the fall of this year. Then in November, teachers reached consensus to recommend this patterns physics option for approval. And now we're here asking for the opening of the 30-day window for public inspection. And then we'll be bringing back for approval in February, the approval of the physics curriculum. Now I'd like to invite Mrs. Hill to share more in-depth information related to the physics adoption, as well as make the formal request to open the 30-day window.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Maldonado and board members. Thank you for your service. I want to start with, hopefully I'm going the direction. There we go. The participants. We had broad participation across all three comprehensive high schools. You can see from the list up there, that's 8 of 9 physics teachers that were teaching physics in terms 1 and 2 participated in the full pilot. And we had other involvement from some special education teachers, a physics teacher who was not teaching physics this fall, but is this spring, and from another teacher who teaches multiple courses, and it was too much for them to participate in the full pilot. A little bit more about the piloting and adoption committee. So we had all 3 high schools, 8 out of 9 physics teachers, and we did take care to have the various lenses of special education. We brought in site administrators, instructional support specialists, which would be myself, but also Janet Hollister, our math instructional support specialist, and with support from district administrators. All of this needs to be situated in the context that we're in, which is our state standards, the next generation science standards. They're from 2013, but it was such a massive sea change that I would say people are still adjusting to the depth and complexity of the new standards. They were made after the Common Core, and they were designed to align with and support Common Core mathematics and ELA and literacy. These standards required major shifts for the teachers and for the publishers. So we had to shift our teaching practices, and it was a long time before anything even close to palatable or viable or authentically aligned to the standards came out for the K-8 space. And because we're a K-8 adoption state, that was the priority, and the publishers really neglected the high school space. So a little bit about NGSS, the next generation science standards. This really moves away from one-dimensional cram and jam content learning, and we move into these 3 dimensions. We have the practices, which are how students learn, which are modeled after the practices of actual scientists and engineers. We have the core ideas, which is what we used to call content. However, now we consider all 3 of these parts content. The cross-cutting concepts are how students think, which is similar, if anyone is familiar with the GATE icons of depth and complexity. There is some similarity there in that the cross-cutting concepts are themes such as cause and effect and patterns that go across all subjects of science. We think about patterns in all subjects of science. We think about cause and effect in all subjects of science. So that's just a little quick, brief overview. There is a link on the slide if you want to know more about the next generation science standards. I happen to think they're amazing. And so why patterns physics? Well, this is really a wonderful unicorn of a curriculum. There's very little out there by the traditional publishers that actually meets the next generation science standards. A lot of the traditional publishers want to keep selling textbooks that don't really engage students in those practices and in those cross-cutting concepts. And as we know now with our state standards and what's known about the highest quality education is that students need to be actively engaged in their learning, not passive recipients of knowledge. So patterns physics attends to so much of this. 21st century learning, STEM education, language and literacy, these things that we care about. What's really exciting about patterns physics is that it is aligned for the 9th grade. It was actually made for the 9th grade to support students and go along with Common Core Mathematics Math 1, so that students are learning two very complementary, age-appropriate bodies of knowledge at the same time, in the same year. There's a lot of lip service paid to STEM and STEAM. A lot of times STEM is really siloed. So you'll have science, you'll have some technology, maybe you have engineering and you have math, but they're not really together. So what's really wonderful, I think, about the patterns physics curriculum is that we have the core physics concepts taught with students engaging with technology through digital data collection and using modern tools for data analysis. We have engineering as students engage in projects, and also the component of engineering around solution design, which is not necessarily hands-on, it's maybe more of an intellectual task. And then mathematics. Physics has always traditionally ripe with mathematics. However, sometimes people get stuck in the old-fashioned physics, which is still viable, appropriate, and relevant as you go on in the upper grades. As a freshman level course and as the NGSS, as our state standards are written, it is intended to be an introduction to the conceptual nature of physics with some mathematics. So the goal is to have students really truly understand, not just number crunch. So there is math involved, but it is not focused solely on computational prowess. There is an emphasis on modeling with mathematics through graphing and using the graphs, which are digitally generated, to find mathematical models. And finally, literacy. Who doesn't love literacy? I feel as a science teacher, I always felt like if nothing else, I wanted students to leave my class with the skills that they would need to be successful in any science class, which is primarily literacy. You need to be able to read, write, speak, and listen as a scientist. So obviously, I love the patterns physics curriculum. We had all our teachers engage in the pilot. But before we go forward with asking for a recommendation for adoption, we want our community to be able to see this wonderful curriculum. So we're requesting a 30-day window for the public review of the patterns physics curriculum. It is a digital curriculum and it's behind a privacy wall because all the answer keys and tests and quizzes are all together there for the teachers, and we obviously can't make that available to the public. But we've put together review materials that give you a really great overview of the curriculum, and they will be available assuming you approve our 30-day request. They'll be available online on the district website and will be sent out via Parent Square. And we have set up a couple of laptops and some binders that will be available at the reception at the district office. So, questions, comments, suggestions?
Yes, thank you. Any requests to speak on this item? Okay, board members, comments or questions? Mr. Banning.
I just want to say as an educator, I've been watching for decades, it seems. The warnings about state standards, Common Core standards coming, and then seeing the initial rollout of them and saying, oh, well, that looks like just the next version of what's going on. And then going, oh, wait, let's read a little deeper into this and understand how complex they have been, all before next gen science standards arrived. Once they came in place, the same questions, the same things. These are amazingly complex to do it, and to do it not only to meet the criteria of the science standards, but the fabulous work that's been done to integrate them with the Common Core. And so I want to say how much I appreciate seeing that this is happening, that we are coming forward into work that is not just bringing cohesive, coherent science curriculum into the grade levels, but it's absolutely linked with the same kind of things that the kids need to be reading and learning in literacy and mathematics. And so thank you for the work. I will also tell you that I'm not a fan of publishing companies that give you 17 books for every subject so that you have to buy them all. And it seems like what we have here is a more conservative approach that's going to meet the needs of the teachers without causing the district to spend enormous amounts of money on materials that can tend to become nothing more than dust catchers. So kudos on all of it, and kudos to us for moving forward with next gen science standards in a way like this. I know this is just physics we're talking about, and there are other pieces out there as well, but I'm enthused to hear about this and anxious to support it.
Thank you.
Additional comments, questions? Ms. Beal?
I have a question about the materials that people can preview for the first 30 days. Is it a written description of what the students are learning, or is there any sort of interactive? It sounds like there's a digital component to this.
Yes.
So yes, I have a question about that.
So yeah, I've put together a variety of materials so you could really get a sense of it. In addition to being a science teacher and supporting the science teachers, I'm also a parent of kids in the district. So I definitely put it together with the lens of what would I want to see as a parent. So there's a combination of understanding the pedagogy. There's information about the philosophical underpinnings of the curriculum, where it's from, etc. There's sample activities. I put together a quick little video so parents could try one of a very small bit of an activity. I have some videos from one of our science teachers who describes a few pivotal activities through a couple of the units. There's some sample student packets. So there's a variety of materials so you could get a sense of kind of the breadth of the curriculum.
That sounds very well put together. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Escobedo.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for all of the hard work that you both have put in, as well as the teachers that you included in the process. I appreciate the process of including teachers and getting the buy-in and then opening up this public window. One public commenter the last time that this came to us had talked about how it can be overwhelming if you don't have the right supports to introduce a curriculum. And if it's just the curriculum without maybe sample lessons plans or any guidance and support, can you talk about some of the supports that'll be available for our teachers as we introduce the curriculum?
Yeah, so I would say, first off, anytime anyone pilots and tries out curriculum that is not something they made themselves, it takes a long time to understand. Just as an example, even though I was a science teacher, I went and guest taught years back when I was an 80% employee, some FOSS lessons in my daughter's science classes over the years. And it would take me, a science teacher, about 2 hours to prepare with the guidebook that I was given to feel like I fully understood what was going to happen in the lesson. So there is a mountain to climb anytime we bring on new materials in the pilot form or the initial implementation. That said, what is specific about this curriculum is there are enormous amounts of resources, which I think, is good and bad. So with lots of resources, that takes time to cull through those resources. So I think what the comment by Kim Tilton, who spoke last time, was referring to was just the need to ensure that we properly support teachers with planning out a thoughtful amount of time for them to collaborate and get together, support each other in digging into the curriculum and making sure they feel good about using it in their classroom, which is work we have done and work I would like to continue to do. So when we come with a recommendation for adoption, I believe we will also be bringing details of the professional learning supports that we would like to provide to teachers.
Fantastic. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, hearing no additional comments or questions. Oh, Miss Anastasia.
About people providing feedback, like how will they do that? Will they email you, or is there like a survey that they can fill out on Parent Square?
Yeah, thank you. So attached to the there's a slide deck that has all of the information I spoke about, and the very last slide on it is for parent feedback or community feedback. In addition to that, we've through the whole process, we've been surveying the teachers and the students in the pilot classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay, so hearing no additional comments, may I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the 30-day window for the science adoption.
Do I hear a second?
I second the motion to approve the 30-day window for the adoption.
Okay, thank you. Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you both
Thank
for the
you.
presentation. Yes. Next, we're moving to G4. Approval of the human resources. Oh, there you are, Dr. Vecchio. Okay.
Good evening, Board President Sims Moten, Dr. Maldonado, board members, and Dr. Beal, welcome to the board. I look forward to working with you. This item is, just for background, this item is the transactions that have taken place in the HR department throughout since the last board meeting, essentially. So in presenting that, we put it on an action item so that I could actually also just point out a couple important highlights on the list. So if you don't mind, I would like to do that now and turn your attention to one classified management appointment, Lucia Gonzalez Medina, who has been working in our planning department for quite a few years as an assistant in mostly administrative assistant stuff. Planning docs, construction docs, things like that. And she now is, if you remember, you approved her interim appointment to a project manager. And we then evaluated that situation and have decided to recommend her be permanently in that position. So congratulations to her. I also want to point out that there are 3 retirements. If you look down the list, that first page, just a little ways, it says classified retirements. Dixie Buckley, 27 plus years. Karen McGarry, 23 plus years. And Jose Pantoja is 4 plus years of service. So congratulations to them. I also want to congratulate Raul Naranjo, Jonathan Nagarete, and Jasmine Rosales for their promotions in the regular classified bargaining unit. And if again, as usual, I like to turn our attention to the classified staff's premium pay that you'd be approving tonight. We have, if you'll notice, we have 5 bachelor's degrees on there. And that is Brenda Aguilar, Lawrence Cook, Natasha Cunningham, Gisela, I'm losing the lines, Gisela Galvez, no, sorry. Yes, and Perla Munoz. And then we have 1 master's degree, Natalia Hatley. And then we have 6 premium language stipends that I'd like to congratulate those people. I do like to call out those names just to take the time to recognize those. And so we have Celia Delgado Lopez, congratulations. We have Maria Gill, Marcela Ramirez, and Rocio Reyes Mora, advancing to level 2. And with that, I will turn those recommendations over to you for consideration. Thank you.
Any requests to speak on this item? Board members, any questions or comments? Sounds like there's none. Thank you, Dr. Vecchio. May I have a motion for approval?
Okay, I move for the approval of the human resources recommendations.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
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 Thank you, and congratulations to those who increased in the premium. Thank you for elevating that, as well as thank you for the service of those who are retiring. Thank you. Okay, all right. Okay, so we're now moving to G5.
Yes, Board President Sims Moten, I'd like to pull item G5.
Oh.
We'll bring that back to you next meeting.
Okay, we're just gonna pull that. Okay. Okay, all right. Well, thank you. So with that, we had deferred our board comments that we could go ahead and wait till Mr. Banning's here. So this is the time now, board members, for any comments and or, announcements. So it sound like I don't have any. Hey, we waited this long to say no? Okay, well, all right, then expedite, but we certainly want to make sure that we welcome, Jeff, you got something to say?
Yeah, I don't know whether the welcome happened while I was gone, but I did want to address formally a welcome in the public session here. I know it was public in the other meetings, but I also wanted to take an opportunity to thank the other 13. Every one of those candidates stepped forward and offered different perspectives, different levels of experience, and each offered something of value. I was able, as I think other board members were, to take away something from every person that we listened to. So they each brought something that allowed us to take that thing away from the process. They all had one thing in common, and that's a heart for public service. It's not a common thing. And to see 14 people coming forward with that heart and having to say no to 13 of them when their intent and purpose was to offer service to this district. And they all held a belief that they could make a difference in the world. So, you and I are coming in on the vote of boards. I've been at it for a year, and it seems like yesterday that I was sitting here saying thanks for the welcome. But it's particularly important in this case for people that are appointed by the board to take this seriously and then make the next steps to get us to that point where there's an election where the electorate can make the decision, and that's coming up in November. I know there's going to be all kinds of things going on, but kudos to you for being part of 14, for being the unanimous selection of the board. I think it was a great decision, and it was a difficult one. You saw it. Everyone that saw, we all said, here's our first choices. And there were different voices. There were different names. There were different people further down the list. And yet when we came together as a board and heard what we had to say and what we'd heard and connected our thoughts about who should be here, it was clear that you were the right choice. And I'm thrilled to be working with you for the next little bit less than a year, I guess.
Bill.
I appreciate the welcome. I understand that I'm appointed. I would like to do my best in this job, and I hope that I can act as a representative and live up to this promise that I've made. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I would also like to report that in terms of action since the last meeting, I had a 3-week Christmas vacation, but I also attended a board meeting of the Adelante Charter School, and appreciate the energy and the effort that's going into managing that organization and the complexities of everything that we're dealing with on top of managing a separate kind of budget. So they're really doing good work to keep things on top of things that have impact on a charter school. So I appreciate the opportunity to be that representative.
Okay, and I saw, with having that trigger my mind. So Superintendent, can you remind us of the committee commitments that we made? I wasn't sure if we did them all because we were waiting for our board member to come on. So if you could.
So we have not finished all of them.
Right.
We will definitely bring those next meeting on the 30th. And I do want to thank Board Member Banning for stepping up for the audit committee, which we've set up the meeting for in January. And you are also a member of that.
Yes.
Thank you for that reminder, and we will definitely get that January 30th. We did want to wait until the next board member was seated.
Yes.
To then bring you that list. So what I will do, or I will, Sandra, when I say I mean Sandra. We will send you a list of all the committees and the commitments that they require and the description of what they are, so that you can start thinking ahead of the meeting on the 30th, which committees you want to be a part of. We did select for the SBCSCA and for the audit so far. Okay, thank you.
So who's on the SBSCA?
The county. Santa Barbara, California Schools Organization. School Boards Organization.
So
we'll send you to you in writing. I'm gonna commit to do it right by sending it to you in writing and having everybody's names listed. I should not work off memory. So
well, yeah,
thank
because
you.
I know there were 2 by statute we needed to do, and I just don't remember who did. So okay, so we'll look forward to that. Thank you so much for sending that information. So now we'll move to our H, report and discussion items. H1, the first reading and sunshining. Dr. Vecchio is on the way.
Okay, thank you very much. So just to give you a quick explanation, we will begin bargaining with CSEA, our other bargaining unit, that's California School Employees Association. In order to bargain, the laws do require that we sunshine publicly the articles that we intend to negotiate. And so these 2 items are the report discussion item. These will, by statute, come back to you the next board meeting. They will come back as a public hearing item, and then after that public hearing item, we will have it on action for the board to take action on and approve. So this is the first reading of the proposal for, I believe, is the first item the Santa Barbara Unified? Sorry, I don't have the agenda in front of me.
Yes.
So the first reading of the Santa Barbara School District's proposal for successor contract negotiations. We will intend to negotiate the contract for the 24 through 27 to try to reach a 3-year agreement contract. And you'll notice that we've sent the attached letter to the president of the California School Employees Association, Chapter 37, Ken Rivas, and relayed to him our intentions to open Articles 40 and Articles 9.
Okay, are there any requests to speak on this item? Board members, any comments or questions? Mr. Escobedo? No, okay, thank you. I know you're coming, yes? Do you want to?
There's a presentation attached to the.
Yeah, so the presentation that's attached there, I attached to every one of the sunshine proposals so that the board and public do have the background on collective bargaining. And there's just a couple facts in there. Happy to go through it if you'd like, or answer any questions you might have about it.
It's pretty short. If you could,
okay,
that'd be helpful.
Yeah, so if you can advance. Oh, do I have the advancer? Here we go. So this is the law that actually governs California public schools requiring to enter into collective bargaining. And then there are 3 types of negotiations. You heard me mention successor contract negotiations, and that's because our current contract expires in June 30th. And so we are actually sunshining this proposal to go into bargaining for that successor contract. That's why I say we're going to go for another 3-year contract with CSEA. Reopener contract negotiations will be when we're in the middle of a contract, a 3-year or 2-year contract, whatever it is, and there is negotiations and we reopen certain articles. And in our case, I think our contracts call for us being able to each side open 3 different articles, and that would be called reopener negotiations. And then effects bargaining is simply bargaining the effects of a district's decision. So when we're going to make a decision that may impact the working conditions of employees, we are obligated to notify our bargaining unit partners, and they have a right to request to negotiate the impacts. It's either called effects bargaining or impacts bargaining, but bargaining the effects or the impacts on the employees. And so we would sit down and bargain the effects of that decision. Those are the 3 types. And then this gives you an idea of the Board of Trustees role, that you approve who is going to be the chief labor negotiator. And then you provide guidance to the chief negotiator, mostly in closed sessions. And then you are the ultimate authority where you approve the sunshine proposals and you approve the tentative agreements.
That's the last slide.
That's it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
So where was I? Am I still on the first item?
That was the first, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we didn't have any requests to speak. Okay, good. So we can move to H2. Yes.
Okay, so if you turn your attention to H2, this is the first reading of the California School Employees Association, Chapter 37, Sunshine Proposal for Contract Negotiations for our successor contract. And if you can see they've sent this letter to us outlining the articles. And they have outlined Article 4, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18, 20, 22, 24, 23, 28, 31, 40, 41, and 43. Sometime, this is, by the way, we're going to look at the whole contract. So some of these might be some minor changes. That's why there's so many on here. But the bargaining unit does have the right to sunshine an additional article if they want, or we do. We just have to give 24-hour notice that we're going to do that. So this gives you an idea of what the CSEA intends to open for the successor negotiations.
Any request to speak? I just have a question. So just for clarification, so the district is saying we'd be sunshining 40 and 9, right?
That is correct.
So does that mean that the number of items that are on the CSEA, we're not going to discuss those, or are you just going to?
So we will have proposals. So what this is saying is the district intends to have negotiations, proposals, exchange of counter proposals on wages and health and welfare. As far as CSEA, they're informing us that they intend to bring forward proposals on all of those articles that I mentioned.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think they included the same articles that we included, of course, which is wages and health and welfare.
Yeah, I was thinking about the other. It doesn't mean because we didn't sunshine it that we won't discuss them.
Oh, no,
Right,
if they propose it, then it's open to any article that either of us propose on, then the whole article is open for us to propose ideas in there.
Awesome. Thank you. I think as we're going through this process, the clearer we can be
happy
of
to
what
clarify.
exactly we're doing. And I don't know, I'm a board member, Bill. I know when I first came on. So it's important, like, what do you mean by sunshiny? Being light? I just want to make sure that, again, and in this where we are in this environment, really being clear and communicating. So if you could just share that, what that is. What does sunshining mean?
Oh, sure. Sorry. So the sunshining is a requirement under the statutes for collective bargaining, whereby the public gets an opportunity to know or get sunshined. We shine light upon the articles that we're going to open and negotiate. So this is actually a report discussion item, chance for public comment. The sunshining will come back for a public hearing where it's another opportunity for the public to give input to the board. And then that third item is an action item. Again, another opportunity for the public to make comment, give input. and then the board takes action. So that's the sunshine proposal process that's outlined in the law.
Great,
Does that
thank
help?
you. That's very helpful. So with that, I think we're going to move to H3.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I?
No, this is discussion. Yeah,
No
right.
vote till that last third action.
I just want to make a comment.
Okay.
Is this H2?
Yeah, this is H2.
Okay. I'm sorry, just very briefly. I want to say that I appreciate CSA taking the time to put a sentence in when they open an article so that there is some specificity to why they're opening the article. And when I read this for the first time, I hadn't seen this yet. I know that when we're on off years, other than the successor agreement, they get their wages and one or two others. But it was nice to see this because you go into this having a little bit more to expect why Article 13 is opening or such. And so I just wanted to express appreciation for having that level of detail. And I know that that's from CTA or CSEA. So kudos to their leadership for giving us a little bit more information than just article numbers.
Indeed.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Thank you, Dr. Beckhill. So next we'll move to a report and discussion item H3, adoption and implementation of elementary ELA. Oh, I see this over already there. Okay.
Yeah, I would like to welcome Principal Curry and Principal Ochoa for joining us late this evening because we know they have to run schools as well.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Maldonado and President Sims Moten. Today, I'm very excited that I get to co-present with Principal Daisy Ochoa from McKinley Elementary and also Principal Ariel Curry from Washington Elementary. And we're here to share a little bit about what's been going on with our implementation of the new curriculum of ELA that we adopted at the end of last school year. And part of this presentation will include a little bit of information about how our students are doing and some data. But I wanted to start with how teachers need much more than just a new set of materials. We need to understand that teachers need to be supported by a team of leaders who recognize that the process of introducing a new instructional curriculum of materials is a very complex undertaking. Curriculum adoption also demands knowledge of content, standards, instructional pedagogy, attention to detail, and a keen understanding of how curriculum connects to other pieces of the district's plan, as well as other curriculum that we currently have in place. We have provided a report, a detailed report for your reference. We can't provide everything we wanted to share with you about what's been going on, but with the detailed report, if you have any questions, feel free to ask at any given point. But we wanted to start with the 6 recommendations for high quality curriculum implementation. This should be familiar. This is what I used for the first report. As a reminder, we will be providing 4 reports to update you on what's going on with the implementation. So our focus will continue to be on these 6 recommendations by the National Institute for Excellence in Teaching, and is focusing on leadership first. We've been doing that by making sure that our principals are receiving the professional learning that they need in order to be supports for their coaches, their teachers, and their students at each of their sites. Also, collaborative professional learning as a focus. We understand the importance of making sure that we prioritize the time that teachers need in order to implement this curriculum. Utilizing an instructional rubric that is going to allow us to focus on alignment throughout the district on this implementation. Coaching and feedback. Our language and literacy coaches have been working collaboratively with our coaches and our teachers to ensure that they have the supports that they need. The stages of curriculum implementation is very important. I will share in just a minute what those look like briefly, just a general overview. And lastly, plan, communicate, and implement. It is so important that we communicate what this implementation is. What does it look like? What are some things that we need to adjust as we go through it? We put together a 3-year professional learning plan, but as we know, not all plans are going to go as we expected. There's going to be some areas that need to be updated, some things that we may need to say,
that didn't work, or this is not going to work. So we definitely need to pivot in making sure we provide that support that is needed. So those are the 6 recommendations. For today, I will also, every child, every chance, every day is what we are focusing on, making sure that we provide you with these other 4 items, pieces of information, besides focusing on those 6 recommended areas. It's student outcomes, student experience, which our principals will share a little bit about what's going on throughout our district, but more specifically at their schools and with maybe one, and also a specific group of students or a student. Implementation and feedback, and then also next steps. As a reminder, the curriculum that we are going to be talking about here includes TK2 is foundations that we are utilizing, Wit and Wisdom K6 at all of our 8 elementaries. McKinley is using Amplify Caminos K2 because they are a DLI school. So we need to make sure that we utilize the curriculum that is needed there. And Amplify CKLA grades 3 to 6. So this, as you can imagine, this is a very complex piece of work that requires all principals to collaborate, all of our instructional support specialists at the district level, all of our teachers, all of our coaches, and every single one of those individuals that support us in every department. As I mentioned, there are stages that we need to, that we go through in order to implement any curriculum, adopt and then implement. And what you'll see here, the orange section and the blue section is what we already did. And this was back in 22-23. First phase is select great materials. Second phase is preparing to launch, and that's how we develop the 3-year professional learning. And currently, we're in the teach and learn stage. That's phase number 3. And in this phase, we train, we plan, and we coach. We train, we plan, and we coach throughout the entire school year. And then we go back to, at the end of the school year, we go back to prepare to launch for the following year. So this is a cycle that we will continue on. So that's just a general overview of this, of the stages. Now on to the data, because we do want to know how our students are doing. So if you look at this data, this represents the fall and winter STAR reading. So these are scores for this school year, and the STAR is an assessment that we use every year in elementary 4 times a year. And when you look at these results are for 3rd through 6th grade, district-wide, and for 3rd grade is the group that had the most significant growth from fall. So that's the first bar and the second bar. Fall, 39% of our students were meeting and exceeding standards. And in the winter, when we tested our students in our reading, students grew to 45%. So this is the same group of students, 3rd grade. We also know, research says that 3rd grade is the group that we should be most concerned about, because we want to make sure that our students are all learning, are reading by 3rd grade. So there's a lot of support that is needed. So this data shows that our 3rd graders, all of our groups are growing, but 3rd grade is making the most significant growth. Next, let's look at it by school. So all of our schools are also making growth. This table is STAR reading data by school for grades 3 to 6. All schools made progress and grew between 3% and 9%. SBCA has shown the greatest growth of 9%. I just want to point out that SBCA's population, 86.8% of the students are socioeconomically disadvantaged. Let me repeat that. 86.8% of the students who grew the most at SBCA, 9%, are socioeconomically disadvantaged. Also, EMLs, 43% of EMLs at SBCA as well are there. So I just wanted to share that piece of data, that the school that had the most significant growth also has populations that sometimes we think are not able to make progress. For our next report, I will add the data for the next assessment period. So we will have fall, winter, spring, and in spring we will have 2 more results. The last one is in May. This is also our STAR Early Literacy Assessment. Is students are assessed at a different rate than we do for 3rd through 6th grade. But we wanted to compare how our students were doing fall 2022 to fall 2023. And when you look at those numbers, if you focus on the blue bar, which is the students that are meeting or exceeding standards, last year, 21% of our students were meeting and exceeding standards in the fall of 22. This year, 25%. It's not a significant growth, but it is a difference. Keep in mind, this is not the same group of students. We're just comparing students from last year to this year. And now we are going to be focusing a little bit about what's going on at our schools.
Good evening. Happy New Year. Feliz Año Nuevo. My name is Daisy Ochoa, and I'm the proud principal at McKinley Elementary. And I am here to represent McKinley, as Denise mentioned. So McKinley is a special community. We're different. So as we mentioned, we are doing a different curriculum. We are currently in our 3rd year of our dual language immersion implementation. So that means our current 2nd grade cohort is doing an 80-20 model, which means 80% of their instruction is in Spanish and 20% of their instruction is in English. So I just want to give some background knowledge as to where we're at right now. We're excited that next year that cohort's moving on to 3rd grade. So for so we are doing CKLA, Caminos, ELA. So we actually have the same publisher, which is Amplify, but depending on which classroom you're in, you have a different curriculum. So, so like any new program, any new curriculum, we've had some challenges, but also some great successes. It's been a year of learning and growth, and not just for students, but for teachers and myself included. One of the struggles that teachers had at the beginning was just getting used to the pace of the lessons, just learning the new material. And, you know, the lessons were long. So this was a little new to them. It was 40 minutes long for what they call lectoescritura, which is their phonics skills-based component of the curriculum, and then another 40 minutes for what they call conocimiento, which is their reading and writing component. So it just ended up being really long lessons. And so, but it was true for all grade levels. So even in the upper grades, it was also 90 minutes of lesson instruction. And so for a big part of the beginning of the year, we were getting together in our PLCs and really just meeting and trying to learn best practices and how to, if we need to modify lessons and just figure out how to meet the needs of students and how to collaborate with teachers. And we have met the ISS come in and really help us out too, and with the PD with Amplify as well, to really help us with the pacing of our lessons. And we still need work in that area as well. We also, you know, it's the component of the program also lends itself to do a lot of whole group lesson types. So we've done a lot of PD around how to bring in the best practices in teaching and make more small group, and where teachers can meet individually with students and target really the needs of and meet them where they really need to do some small group intervention with them as well. So we've been really trying to as we go, we're learning what we need, you know, from our new curriculum, and we are addressing those needs either to, you know, like I said, our ISS team, or with ourselves, or with our publisher, and really trying to come up with solutions. And one of the things also that teachers shared at the beginning of the year was just how rigorous the new curriculum was, and actually, I wouldn't say it was the complaint that they shared, but they just kept saying, this is really hard. It's really hard. But fast forward in January, they're actually like, wow, like they're getting it. So it's just kind of really how setting those high expectations for students, and they're really engaged in the curriculum now. And so now that there's a routine in place and the teachers feel more confident, they're really seeing how that rigorous instruction is actually, you know, now really benefiting the students. And what they're seeing now is wow, if they do a year of this, so now our second grade teachers, how when they come, next year when their students have already had a year of this and, and had a routine of what it's like to be in a classroom with this curriculum, they're just really excited to what's to come for next year. So in my slides here, I just kind of, this is all pictures in one day of, life at McKinley, I guess you would say, from kindergarten all the way through our upper grades. So we have students working in what we call, again, lectoescritura, which is phonics skills-based instruction, students doing some reading comprehension. We have some partner reading going on. I had a video with those two students, and it was so they were, our EML student, which is, her Spanish language or her home language is Spanish, really helping out her friend there with the Spanish instruction. It was, I wish I could have played it there. It was great. And then moving on to third grade, where we switched to English only instruction, but they're really working with the English, some word knowledge there. And then in fifth, I believe that's fifth grade. Yes, we're reading about ancient civilizations and the Aztec civilization. So they're really engaged. The reading has become really the teachers have reported how students, they just are really engaged in the materials. So so far, it's been, again, a big learning curve for us, but the experience has been good. We have a lot more learning to do. So, I hope that this time next year we'll be in a much better place, having, more experience with it. So, that's, for us at McKinley, and I invite you to come at any time. It's a great place to come see. So I'll hand it over to Ms. Curry.
Thank you, Daisy. Good evening, school board member, Superintendent Maldonado, and executive cabinet. My name is Ariel Curry, and I'm the proud principal of Washington Elementary School. It's my pleasure to share our school's journey with our new English language arts adoption, Wit and Wisdom in grades K through 6 and Foundations in grades TK through 2nd. As with any new program, there's been a learning curve, especially for our K through 2nd grade teachers, juggling 2 new ELA programs and ensuring fidelity to both. While many instructional program practices seamlessly adapt to Wit and Wisdom, learning the new terminology and finding the right pacing with the lessons has been a challenge. The lessons are designed to complete in 90 minutes, but in reality, the lessons require more time than that, extending into multiple school days. As we go through the school year and get more comfortable with the program, we hope to get more efficient with the lessons so that we can ensure that students are getting access to learning content in alignment with grade level standards. My MTSS team and I have actively participated in the implementation, conducting classroom walkthroughs to understand the program and support our teachers. It's been humbling to acknowledge that I don't know all the answers, but this experience has positioned our team to strategically focus on how to collaborate on executing high quality Tier 1 instruction with vertical grade level alignment. During our November site leadership team meeting, we analyzed our STAR data and noticed a consistent trend. Across all grades, students scored higher in reading informational text compared to literature. One of my teacher leaders attributed this to a consistently used instructional strategy called RACES, which is a strategy that helps students organize their thoughts, express ideas, and develop critical thinking skills when writing about a text. This was an aha moment for us, highlighting the power of leveraging consistent, high-level instructional practices across grade levels. Our new ELA curriculum will give us an opportunity to not only collaborate, but calibrate as we continue to develop a cohesive learning progression that supports all of our students. One strategy that we have already implemented, particularly to ensure our students with IEPs engage fully with Wit and Wisdom's grade level texts, which are very rigorous, is through the use of assistive technologies such as Learning Ally and Google Translate. These tools empower students to utilize text-to-speech features, actively follow along, and participate confidently in class discussions. We've seen a lot of success with utilizing these tools to maintain access to grade level content while also providing students with targeted reading intervention to support their individualized learning needs. To expand access to these tools, our special education team trained their general education colleagues at one of our recent staff meetings empowering them to use these tools for all students needing additional support. And it's been really cool to see this in action. We have a newcomer student in second grade who's from Japan, and he's so skilled with using Google Translate to take a snapshot of his text. And so it pops up everything in Japanese, and it's just really beautiful to see him engage in that and be able to participate to the greatest extent possible this experience. And this is true for a lot of our students. It's really exciting to leverage the assistive technology tools, not only for our students with IEPs, but all learners that need a little extra support with accessing grade level content. Finally, the pictures here on the slide deck are from one of my first grade classrooms. And as you can see, the students are actively engaged with a text from Wit and Wisdom called Thomas Went to the Library. And they're working together to answer the content learning question, which there's different layers of questions within the Wit and Wisdom curriculum. And this is the one particularly on the lesson that they're engaged in. And it's focused on story elements and putting these concepts together to support their ability to retell the story in their own words, which is a really tough task for first graders to do, but I can tell you I've seen them in action and they've certainly risen to the occasion. And our first grade teachers particularly are just impressed with how our students are taking the skills that they're learning from Wit and Wisdom and integrating it into other discussions they have across grade level subjects throughout their day. So it's really cool to see just the journey that our students are on. Like Mr. Cho has shared, it is a work in progress and we have so much to learn, but we're really excited to see where we're headed a year from now once we get better alignment with our practices and really see our students continue to shine and grow. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share our school's experience with our new English language arts adoption. And we welcome you to come to Washington anytime to see the great teaching and learning happening on our campus. Thank you.
We have a couple more slides just to finalize the presentation. This school year, we implemented our learning walks in our district. And throughout all of our elementaries, our instructional support specialist and I gathered last year. So this was a work in progress since last March. And we developed a plan, and this is a very simplified way to explain what that plan is. But the objective is for us to focus on student learning actions and develop relationships with our teachers, our staff at every single one of our sites. Who's involved? Elementary site and district team. When? 3 rounds per year. So that means that every single one of our schools, 9 elementaries, and every single one of our classrooms is visited 3 times a year. Where? Like I said, 9 elementaries and all classrooms. Our round 1 classroom visits have been completed, and we visited as a team 161 classrooms. By the end of the year, we'll visit almost 500 classrooms as a team. That is something we haven't been able to do in the past. And I don't know of any other district that has been able to do that. So we are very proud of this work. Just real quick, before the walk, school leaders meet. We, as a team, we actually had our, one of our learning walks, it's almost every Tuesday. We had our learning walk today at McKinley Elementary. And so before the walk, we meet, we talk about what is our focus going to be, part of the 6 learning actions. And then we review the agenda, we go over the action, and then we prepare the group to visit classrooms. Our focus again is not on the teachers, but at the student learning actions, right? Because as a result of what our teachers do, our students will perform. After that, during the walk, we calibrate expectation of student learning actions. We gather data about specific learning actions when we were walking through the classrooms with that focus in mind. And then we build relationships with our teachers. The more they see us as collaborative partners in this process, the more, the stronger we will become and provide the support that our teachers, our students, our sites, everyone will need. We highlight strengths and build upon opportunities. That's our focus when we have during that learning walk. And then to offer also teaching tips based on student learning actions. After the walk, we meet again to debrief, and individuals will reflect on what they observed, and then we will do a reflection as a team. We discuss the observations of student learning actions during the visit, and then we talk about the strengths and opportunities. We do it on a sticky note, and then we just write down what are those opportunities and what are those strengths. So strengths and areas to grow. And then the site team puts it all together and decides what is it that this looks like? What do we need to work on? And then as a site, the site team determines what their next steps will be. And then we then as a district team decide what type of support is needed. And the site is able to explain the support that is needed in order for them to move on with next steps. So that's basically in a nutshell, what our learning walks are. For the next board report, I will bring more information about our learning walks, but I do have pictures of every single one of our learning walks at all of our schools. And as you can see, it's not a one-person show or walk. This includes between 10 and 15 people at the most. And so that includes the principal, the AP. You guys will also see our office managers, part of this process. You will see our youth outreach workers, assistant principals, MTSS, coaches, instructional support specialists, and when possible, teachers who are currently, who have that time during the day and they can join us, they also join us as well. So these are all of our walks for the first round. I can't wait to share more about what happens in round 2. We're already almost halfway through round 2. So by the end of April, we should be able to complete all of our 3 rounds. So going back to the implementation, this is the feedback we have received from parents. So not only the learning walks, we also have an implementation protocol that we follow with the support of our partners within Wisdom. And so we did walks with a focus, so very similar to the learning walks, but the other focus was on implementation, and it was just principals and coaches. And what is going well based on those implementation rounds are motivated teachers, student engagement, professional learning is happening, the use of routines. Leader and teacher actions contributing to this implementation is foundational training, language and literacy coaches supporting, planning our protocols, and also teacher collaboration and planning time, again, being prioritized, piloting teachers. So last year, those teachers that piloted the curriculum are key individuals who are supporting their PLC team members, principal and coach collaborating and becoming more informed and becoming instructional leaders more than ever. And then also principals as instructional leaders, as we shared before. Next steps, continue to monitor student progress through classroom walkthroughs, learning walks, data, continue to provide professional learning, coaching, and feedback for leaders and also for teachers through observations and professional learning. And lastly, parent engagement. We know that's an area that we need to grow on, provide opportunities for our parents to learn and engage with our new curriculum. And that concludes our report.
Thank you. Are there requests to speak? Okay. Thank you.
There are. John Coy, followed by Sherry Ray, followed by Moni DeWitt.
I'm John Cooey.
Cooey, sorry.
I'm 86 years old, and I've almost forgotten what I'm going to talk to you about. But it is important, even though it's quite simple. I would like to convince the board and the administration to consider reviving a program that actually helped children entering kindergarten complete their reading proficiency test successfully. And the use of that program actually reduced failure rates by 90% across a 4-year period. The way this all came about, I came in the early 2000s, and I was asked by a volunteer group to help meet the response asked for by the superintendent of schools then, who was Brian Sarvis, because he was concerned that 2/3 of the children entering kindergarten were failing their reading proficiency tests. My own background was I taught developmental psychology at Duke. I had a career award from NIMH for prevention research with high-risk kids. And a major part of what we did with those high-risk kids was teach them to read as early as 1st and 2nd grade. So a good part of my work was involved training people to learn how to teach kids phonics, which is the very core basis for learning to read, learning to connect the printed symbols with the English speech sounds. When I started work in the school district, someone said, you know, there actually is a computer program that teaches young children how to read.
If you could finish up your thought.
And it's at Cleveland School and at Harding. And I went over to Cleveland and I pretended to be a 4-year-old. And the then principal sat with me and I tried to get everything wrong that I could. And before very long, I couldn't get wrong answers. And I realized this computer actually does a better job of tutoring children reading one-on-one than I was able to train a lot of Duke undergraduates and who are
Thank you,
going to
Mr.
become
Cooey.
tutors. So what we did was we took this computer program.
Mr. Cooey, your time is up.
Pardon?
Your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you. If you have additional comments, you can email them to us. Sherry Ray. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm pleased that the district has adopted a structured curriculum that relies on the evidence-based science of reading. However, this is far more than just a curriculum change. It's a paradigm shift in reading instruction, one that is likely not to have been taught to most of our educators. The successful implementation of this approach requires a deep commitment to teacher training and experienced, knowledgeable leadership that believes in and strongly advocates for the science of reading in the classroom and in the community. In time, this new approach, when taught with fidelity, will begin to help our elementary readers. But 50% of our students lack fundamental reading skills and struggle to read in every grade. Like the bright and frustrated 5th grader who cannot read due to balanced literacy, who now has a district-approved first grade reading goal of first grade reading skills by next year. It's an emergency to identify, intervene, and intensively remediate these underserved Lucy Calkins curriculum casualties in our schools. Parents who can afford private tutoring quietly pay out of pocket more than $100 an hour. Those that don't hope and pray for a miracle. This is an urgent moment for innovative thinking, prioritizing and implementing the fundamental right to read for every student of every age. It's the essence of equity in education. Literacy is for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Board Member Escobedo and High Board. Yeah, so I do want to talk to you about the ELA presentation we just had. One of the things that I think would be beneficial is if we identified what's happening to our subgroups, because normally a presentation that just shows the averages will factor in our white and Asian students who bump everything up. And so we're really not seeing how actually things could be getting very bad for our EMLs as well as students with learning differences. Like one thing, simple fact, I think you should all be aware of if you're not, is that our EMLs are at 6% at the 3rd grade. Remember, the 3rd grade's a big year. And our students with learning differences only 8% proficient. Now, I think that's something that should be highlighted to the board, because along with feeling good about some incremental jumps in the typical averages, what we really need to do to be honest about our promise to equity is to look at the subgroups. And, when I'm looking at 6 and 8%, I feel those scores are anemic. Now, the reason why I'm telling you too is why I'm discussing this with you is Governor Newsom has, by law, we're going to have to do the screening by 2025. Now, if we're a proactive smart board, we'll do screening now, universal screening to all the kids, because in secondary, we have a lot of students who are way behind, and just those walkthroughs, they're not going to find them. That's a nice social exercise, but it's not going to help. And we need to do concrete things that matter to the subgroups. Thanks.
Thank you. That's our public comment.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any comments or questions? Ms. Beal?
Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Alvarado. It is nice to see those percentages go up. And I do see that some schools start at a higher baseline. And so I have a question about, in light of this new curriculum, what are the interventions is there a plan in place for the groups that are not meeting or exceeding these percentages?
Yes. We do have various ways, as it was described earlier with our principals. They shared some of the interventions that they provide in the different teams that are part of this process. And it takes a village. It's not a one program or one person alone. It does require a variety of different things. So we do look closely at what the individual needs of our students are. I can provide you with one example. The board recently adopted one of the level 2 support for our students, in which we are providing intervention. So this is Freckle, is a program in which we are using across the entire district elementary school, and all of our schools are utilizing that during their power hour. So power hour is an intervention across the entire district and elementary that is being used for that hour, in which intensive intervention is provided for every single one of our students. And every one of our teachers is involved. Every single one of our schools provides this. And going back to the platform that we're using, it is directly correlated to or directly connected to the STAR assessment that we use. And the STAR assessment that we use is also directly connected to the CASP scores, which we do once a year. And that's one of the ways in which the California Department of Education grades us as a district or as individual schools, how we're doing in terms of student performance. So that's just one example. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. We will bring a report to the board at the next meeting on what the plans are for tier 2 interventions. That's what we call it. We call tier 2 interventions. All students are expected to get tier 1 instruction, meet the same rigorous standards. But as has been stated, there are kids that will fall behind in certain areas. And as we measure progress with the assessments throughout the year, there's the STAR assessments, which are called formative. So they're, building on each other throughout the year. There's also individual tests that teachers can give to find out how kids are doing, which was said by our principals. There's the power hour, which is a very dedicated time. I know that Board Member Banning and Board Member Escobedo went to see that with me when we did school visits. And there is curriculum that's purchased, or in this case, the program Freckles, which adds additional supports to the students. But the idea is that we're always circling back to make sure that still children are reaching competency and maintaining that learning. And that is called, that's part of what we call our multi-tiered system of support. And that is where the tier 2 supports come in. So we do intend to give you a deeper report, but those are just 3 top of the mind actions that we are taking consistently across schools.
Additional questions, board members? Ms. Munoz.
Just a question. What is the one time a year test or that's done?
That's the CASP, California assessment.
Thank you. That's the only.
Mr. Banning.
I just want to clarify my understanding about the STAR tests for a moment. The STAR tests that are given in fall and winter, this is not repeating the same test and seeing growth on the same tests 3 months later. Is that correct? It is every time it's given, the test itself includes the expectation of growth, appropriate growth for that time period?
Yes, that is correct. And I can provide more information at the next.
So when we say there's a 9% growth, it's not 9 from there, from the learning that they're expected to have in the fall. The expectations go higher, and the 9% growth is based on the new test, which is a harder test each time. Is that accurate?
I would have to provide you with more in-depth information. And Steve, do you have it? Okay.
Okay, so I do think that that's an interesting part of clear communication to community about what growth means, because it's not just keep testing the same thing and seeing growth on the same thing. We keep testing for the growth and the assumption that the instruction that has occurred in between those times has raised it to some point. So Just an important piece
to
there. I
help
just wanted to
clarify-
clarify. I wasn't sure that that was the case for the STAR test.
And it's a standards-based assessment, so it's testing the standards that the students should learn by the end of the year. If you want to provide more.
Those are great questions. And one thing, yes, so it's an adaptive test. So if a student is unable to answer the questions at that grade level or that standard, then it'll actually go down and it will pinpoint exactly what they're getting hitched upon. That's why that test is such a valuable tool in terms of, like Dr. Maldonado was pointing out, in terms of tier 2 learning. So.
And is it accurate then to say that the test that they take in fall is grade 3 winter, in terms of where the adaptive test would be? That it's grade 3 at that point. Several months later, when you do the fall test, it's not the same. It may be the same test, but the expectation is that keeping even would mean growing to the appropriate place. The test has growth between every iteration. Is that true?
That's accurate. Yes, because you can't just give a test to 4th grade students and assuming they've accomplished 4th grade standards at the beginning of the year with the assessment.
Okay. I'm sorry if I'm confusing the issue. I think so much of what we hear and what we do as educators and governance team has levels of complexity and nuance that are very difficult to put out and in a 30-minute presentation. And so sometimes there's just little tweaks of our understanding with it. Each time that test happens, they're being tested on where they should be at that point, not 3 months earlier.
Right.
Okay, good.
Mr. Escobedo.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Principal Curry and Ochoa, for being here. I plan on taking you up on the invite. Again, and in addition to saying thank you, I want to also show appreciation for the amount of detail that was included in this particular item. I found particularly interesting the observations and reflection tool. Gave me insight and a little bit more comfort in the fact that we are assessing our educators on a myriad of ways. If I'm a new educator, it's going to look a little bit different than if I'm a veteran or if I've used this curriculum for a long time, and that was really helpful. Few questions that you may or may not have answers for right now, and that's okay. But the STAR testing, what sort of information are we getting on the back end? In addition to, Mr. Vance talked about, we find out what they're getting caught up on. Give us some insight into what that could possibly be, what that looks like. So if I'm an educator and I have this student, ideally we want to provide supports for the specific area that they're getting caught up on.
And the STAR does provide us with specific areas within those standards and skills that the students are needing additional support in. And it's again directly connected to the standards, the standards that students and teachers follow in order for them to make progress. Also, as I mentioned, Freckle's connected to it, and Freckle gives additional insight in which allows the teacher to provide additional practice for the students so that they can practice those skills that they need additional support in.
So if I can make a request, either in your next update or for board members separately, is to maybe sit down and show us what that looks like and give us an example. So give us obviously no indicators for the child, but show us what it might look like. And then from seeing that information, what sort of support would you provide? Because I'm looking at this information, the STAR data, and we have 50% of kids that standard is nearly met. So how close are we to having some of those students or all of those students meet the category of standard met or exceeded is what I'm thinking. Because in that case, we could, with the right supports, have 75% up to. And then we still have a category that the standard's not met, but how far are they away? And it's going to be different for each kid, but I want to know where those thresholds are.
if I may. And I'm trying to connect this to, so what the teacher will get is a list of all their students with the bars that show how they achieved. And below each student's single report, there will be a set of standards that the student will need to meet, like needs to identify the main idea and details in a text, needs to develop vocabulary connected to text, and so on. It'll also provide, and I will ask Steve if I say this wrong, the teachers how to group students for small group instruction so that the teacher knows then how to meet student needs. So there's a lot of work that this test does for a teacher. 1,000 years ago when I was a teacher, I had to do all that myself and figure out who needs what and group kids. This test allows the teachers to get all that information up front, figure out what students need, and gives them ideas on things that they need to do to help the students. And that's part of the Freckle, how we identified that as a supplemental tool for reaching that. So what we'd like to do is at the next board meeting, we can give you an example. We'll write out the student's name and show you what the report looks like so you can have a better view of it.
Yeah, specifically for the ELA curriculum, because I'm sure that we can go on every single curriculum topic, but particularly for this one.
May I share just one final thing that about the same STAR assessment? We recently engaged in an exercise with all principals, and we review STAR data as well as Freckle data will be reviewed with the principals. I will be doing that on a monthly basis so that we can look at the high level view of the students who are not meeting standards. So our focus at the last almost a month ago was on what percentage of our students by grade level are not meeting standards, and what are we doing to ensure that we provide the support that is needed. So that, and so we do, for this presentation, we focus on the students meeting and exceeding standards, but we are doing a lot of work on the background, focusing on the students who are not meeting standards and individualizing. We get a list, and as a principal, every principal knows what percentage and also the name of every single one of the students within that grade level and what teacher is assigned to that student. So that's the kind of level of report we get.
Okay. Thank you for that. Other things that I don't think that need to be a part of your next report, but that I'm interested in seeing would be the 3-year professional development plan. In phase 2, there were goals set. I'd like to know what those goals look like. And maybe this part is a part of the next presentation, but I'm interested. We have schools that are performing at different levels for our students. What are we doing to take the pockets of successes, and I've mentioned this previously in other topics, and learning from those so that I know you're getting all of our site leaders together to have these discussions, but the follow through, the accountability, there's a lot to taking those pockets of success and expanding them to some of our other schools. So you don't have to give me the answer now, but I would love an example of something that was really successful at one of our elementaries that we then took that to learn from for our other schools.
Freckle was one of them. So Adams Elementary implemented Freckle. It started with one teacher who introduced it, and then it was used school-wide. And then because of that success that the teachers and the school side noticed and were able to see, all of our principals decided to request for us to bring forward to the board and for approval of Freckle across the district. So that's one example, big example that I can provide, but
And
there
that's
are
a good one.
multiple.
That's a very good one. Let me see. So in the presentation, and I think both Principal Curry and Principal Ochoa talked about one of the challenges is how long the lessons were sometimes, and that the curriculum itself was rigorous, but very, very good and substantive. What were some of the other things that you're hearing about some of the challenges that teachers are seeing in the classroom?
There are many. So the time that they would like to provide to receive spending time modeling lessons. So they would like to see, and that's actually we're responding to their needs in different ways, but they wanted to see experienced professionals from the curriculum teach and model lessons for them so that they can see what it looks like so that they can follow and learn from those model lessons. And actually tomorrow we are going to be engaging in that professional learning. So district-wide, 5 times a year, we have professional learning, and our focus for tomorrow will be on looking at students who are not meeting standards, meeting standards and exceeding standards. So we're going to have collaborative conversations, grade level across the district. So all 3rd grade teachers in the entire district meet 5 times a year to discuss. And this time around is going to be a discussion on how our students are doing in all those 3 different levels. And then the other piece is the model lessons is we're going to have 3 different classrooms. We're going to provide those model lessons. We are going to be recording those lessons so that our teachers can use that information and we can use it as professional learning as well. So we're creating a library of model lessons across the district. So that will take time in providing that support. So that's one of the struggles. They want to see what it looks like, right? From with my students at Santa Barbara Unified, what does that teaching and learning look like for our students?
Yeah. And I think it's worth recognizing we just adopted this curriculum and it's going to take time for our teachers. We do have teachers going through the letters program. Do you happen to know offhand how many of our teachers are going through the letters program?
Yes, we have about between 32 and 35 teachers and coaches that have volunteered to attend. This is a 2-year commitment. And that 2-year commitment that the board approved a year ago, starting of the school year last year. And our teachers actually this Saturday, if you are available, feel free to stop by SBCA. We can provide you with the information, but it's a full day professional learning on letters, and letters is to provide that support that is needed on how to teach reading and provide the support for our students and teachers. Many of them are also our coaches.
Nice. I think that's it for now for this particular topic, but I do want to express my gratitude. I know this is a lot of work. There's a lot of information in here that I appreciate that is in here. There's more of a narrative that I think was really helpful for me to understand the process that we've gone through since the last update. I do notice that on one of the handouts, there's a large increase for our Latino students when it comes to CASP. It would be great to know how we got such a large increase from one year to the next. And so more information about what the data is actually saying. We can see the percentages. I think we can all agree we are not where we need to be. Super helpful for the board to have more context for what we're looking at. Breaking it out by our subgroups, talking to us about some of the challenges and what you're hearing out there. So thank you again so much and appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I just have just a couple of questions, and I think it's just a number thing for me. It's on the slide where it's for the K2 GR Start early literacy assessments. I was just wondering, in fall 22, we had 503, and then 23 had 638. Can you talk about what that increase was? I think it's about 135. Did we have more students, or I don't know what number slide it is.
Slide number 7.
7, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we definitely have increased our younger students. That number has grown tremendously. I don't have the exact, we do have some numbers here. Keep in mind that the numbers that we have here are those students who have tested, right? And so it might not include everyone for absences and other, which shouldn't be a significant number, but the number you see, the significant difference would be the number of students enrolled, because we are enrolling younger students, and our goal is to continue to enroll them.
It says K2, so would it include some TKers in there?
It does, at times our principals, so I have to look at the exact numbers to give you more information, but our enrollment with younger students, but I do have to look at back.
Okay, I appreciate that. The littles are in there and how foundational that is. So, that's always going to be there. I also just want to add on to Board Member Escobedo with regard to this being a new curriculum. And I recall it was a while before we adopted one, right?
The
Many
last
years.
adoption was in 2007.
Right. So I think that's something to be acknowledged and appreciated, and all the work that went to get to where we are now. And, because there are curriculums that were before us that was the best thing since sliced bread, until they weren't, right? So what I appreciate about this process is that we're putting things in place to assess it so that we can say how earlier in the process is it working? Is it doing what we want to do? So I really appreciate all the work and the learning walks and how can we, because it's hearing from public comment, how do we get public input into this in terms of, I don't know if they can be part of the walks. I don't want to add anything on, but I'm just saying to keep that there and how we're communicating clearly to the community. It is the first one. We haven't adopted one, just keeping those things. And so I would add when we make these presentation is like 5 takeaways you want the public to know, the board to know, and looking at that really kind of summarizes what that we're looking at, or then what we might want to ask and add to. So just some takeaways that can make it, summarize it quicker. But I appreciate all the work. Thank you, principals, for being here this evening and being patient with our day. So, Superintendent.
I also want to thank the teachers. I know they've left the room, but I really appreciate how the teachers have participated in this adoption process. They have been with us from the very get-go last year when we were looking at, actually the year before, when we were doing our listening session tours and we heard from teachers, this is what we need. Then we engaged in a whole set of process about talking about, should we adopt only reading? Should we adopt only writing? Should we do both? This has been a process that has been a continuously collaborative process between the administration, our TOSAs, and the teachers. And then them really allowing us in, and I say allowing because I remember being a teacher. It's very kind of scary when a bunch of adults walk into your room and watch you teach because you're used to being alone with kids. And I really appreciate them opening their doors, being open to the feedback by the coaches. That's also a big lift on their part. Again, these are teachers that have been teaching, depending on how many years they've been with us, being open to hearing coaches on the curriculum and on strategies and routines in different ways, because they've been doing a lot on their own. What this has also done for us as we prepare our principals to become instructional leaders is giving them a coherent lens by which we look at what should be happening in teaching and learning at the student level and at the teacher level. So I just want to give a special recognition to our teachers. And I believe that what Denise has done is really modeled how we appropriately adopt curriculum, where we do have a chance to give voice to everyone and choice so that we could get to a better curriculum adoption. And I think that has been the model that we've followed with the others. I did hear from teachers that, we've been piloting a lot, but we've never had a coherent collaborative process that allows us to set clear expectations. And I know where you're going. We want to get to that next level where we say, we expect every child to read by 3rd grade, and some will not. And what are we going to do about it? And that's going to be happening from the beginning all the way till the end of their career. So that is our goal ultimately, but we also know that our teachers need that time to practice and learn. So thank you to everyone.
Okay, board members, great discussion. It brings us to item I. We had no items to return from consent agenda. We discussed those. And the coming events is there. So you click on there, what the coming events are. We have the end of semester, January 26th, which is also a minimum day. January 30th is our regular board meeting. And then we have February 21st to 29th is National African American History Month. And we'll be bringing resolutions. Perhaps we might want to bring the resolution on the 30th so they can start. Yes. So we'll try to get those at the beginning of the months that we're going to be celebrating. And future agenda items, this is also where we want to bring items back we want to discuss further. So this is where we can add them at any point. We have 4 here. Our school accountability report, I'm not sure where we are with that one. Is that a new one or?
That's the start.
That's the start.
Start.
Okay. And then our consolidated application, not sure what that is. Yeah.
Steve, CONAP is the. Feel a bit about the CONAP?
Yeah, the consolidated application.
Senior moment.
So if you could get here on the mic so we can hear you. Steve, can you come here? So we can
It's
get
the report for federal dollars. It's the consolidated application report,
Okay, okay.
the annual audit. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And those are the things I was just sharing in terms of, so as we're thinking about future items, this is where you would say, hey, I want to bring this to the board for discussion.
So I will ask guidance from the board on this, because Mr. Escobedo, you brought up some additional items that you would like discussed. The purpose of the 4 reports that we have put in place for the adoption process is literally like, how is the adoption going? And we sort of brought in a little bit of student report data, but I could see how this can get very complex. So I want to make sure I get clarity, and maybe you don't have to answer now, but I want us to think about this. We do have student reports for student outcomes 3 times on our governance calendar. This report is on the implementation of the adoption. So I want to know if you would like me to maybe fold in some of what you've asked about in the student outcomes report, which is a more comprehensive, because that's where we talk about attendance, we talk about outcomes TK-12, whereas this is more of a concentrated elementary only report.
I think there's a nexus between what I was asking for and the ELA adoption. But maybe that's something that we can talk about offline.
So I just want to make sure I get
Yeah.
clarity. So, before I send people off to create another report that we manage that. Thank you.
Okay. So board members, as you recall, I will adjourn this, but we will adjourn from this meeting to our closed session to continue discussion. Thank you all for being here this evening. Happy New Year, good year. See you next time, January 30th. Thank you.